safety and skill set to allow you to advance and make a better life for yourself and your family. Become a member of the Earth Development team today by applying for their available operator and pipe crew positions on earthdevelopment.net. That's earthdevelopment.net. We can't wait for you to be a part of the team.
Hey guys, it's Chuck, and wait a minute, do you hear that? I think your house is trying to tell you something. If you're vented, dirt.
The Braves 2020 postseason starts Wednesday night, and the Braves Radio Network is getting you ready for the playoffs. Live from Sports and Social at the Battery Atlanta on our 2020 postseason preview.
He hits a towering fly ball to right field, back there towards the wall. Tell you what, if you're looking for firepower, you've come to the right place. Another home run for the Braves.
Tug Coward and Chris Domino are getting Braves country ready for a huge playoff run, with appearances by Braves broadcasters Ben Ingram, Joe Simpson, and Kevin McAlpin, and other big Braves names.
A two-run shot by Freeman, and the Braves are cruising tonight here at Truist Park.
Plus, you can stream the show live on YouTube from the Braves flagship 680 The Fan in Atlanta. This is the Braves 2020 postseason preview on the Braves Radio Network.
And an absolutely gorgeous night in Atlanta, sitting here at the Sports and Social, looking at Truist Park, along with Chris Domino and Kevin McAlpin. My name is Tug Cowart. Goodness gracious, guys. Is there anything better than postseason baseball in the world?
Yeah, the only thing that's different is it doesn't say October yet.
Yeah,
so we're not really playing October baseball just yet. But yeah, this 60 games, at times it felt like it flew. Other times it was like, oh, please, nothing else. And Kevin, we've talked about it. I don't know what baseball would have been able to take had we had one more, two more bad moments, team-driven bad moments. I think everybody was sort of nervous when it happened in the beginning of the year. The fact that most everybody got to 60 games, the fact that most everybody who was supposed to be here got here based upon the rules. Let's go. Let's play some baseball.
Yeah, it certainly feels like October baseball here in Atlanta. There's no doubt about it. This time last season when the Cardinals were here, it was like 95 degrees. It was the middle of summer hot. So it actually
it's windy today.
Yeah, it feels like postseason baseball is in the air. But, Chris, you're right. For everything that happened that first week of the regular season with the outbreaks with the Marlins and with the Cardinals, for Major League Baseball to stay the course, keep the testing procedures going forward, and for players and coaches and everybody to buy in and make sure they all did their part to get this season in. I think it speaks volumes to how seriously everybody took it. And, man, I can't wait to get the postseason going here tomorrow.
I don't know what might carry over. 7-inning doubleheaders didn't louse the game up. Runner on second didn't louse the game up. The idea of expanded playoffs, believe me, two teams under 500 getting in, there are a lot of people rolling over in their graves. That's not what playoff baseball is. Go ask Yogi Berra. You went to the World Series, you didn't do anything. I get all those things. 2020 was a different year for so many different reasons. I just like the idea that we're here. I like the idea that people followed the rules. And I like the idea that if you were left standing as one of these 16, whether the number's too big for you or not, you now have an opportunity to do something that you don't get many chances to do. Go win a championship.
Yeah.
You can't take it away from you. And it doesn't matter who gets asterisks. It doesn't matter how many hits. It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to be your world champion. And those people are going to get rings. And I don't think you have to justify or apologize.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. The thing that irks me a little bit is when people talk about an asterisk. And I'm just like, well, why? Everybody's competing under the same rules. It's not like you're using different rules for different teams. Everybody's competing in the same arena and competing for the same thing. They played the same amount of games. They played them the same way. What would make this season an asterisk season? I don't see that.
I don't either. And I think, there's always a unique set of circumstances to get a full season in. It was a whole lot different this year when the testing procedures came out.
Sure.
And when you're on the road, you've got to stay in your room room. You can't go out and do the normal things. So it was a whole unique set of challenges this season. I mean, look, you couldn't afford to get out to a slow start.
That's right.
We talked about that. It happened in the Nationals again this season. And guess what? They're going to be sitting home watching the playoffs again this year.
And the Cincinnati Reds, 16-8 down the stretch, second best record in Major League Baseball. They're coming in certainly a hot team. They've got a Cy Young candidate, if not a Cy Young Award winner, going in Game 1. Here's what I'll also say about was this year different? Yeah. But will it count the same? I'll give you an example. Somebody has a really good October and are a borderline Hall of Fame player. And it's all of a sudden, that guy helped lead his team to a championship. If you have a good October, if it makes you more money in free agency or arbitration, that makes it a normal year. There are going to be things. You win a Cy Young Award this year? If you're a borderline Hall of Famer and somebody says, well, what are we going to argue about? Oh, let's look at his resume. It's going to be on there. That's what I know. And in October, if you come up big, you're thought about and talked about forever. This sport has had more words written about it, more words spoken about it. You know what most of it rallies around? What people do in October. And October, if everything else was different to get to this point, October baseball is October baseball. Some guys will be big, and some guys are going to be small, and the guys who are big are going to be able to talk about it, and people will talk about them for the rest of their lives.
No doubt about it. Marcell Ozuna is a guy that has come in on this Braves team and filled a big hole. When Donaldson left, he's filled an amazing hole, and he's done it really well. And the reason I bring that up is because you talk about that guy that is going to use what he's done this season to get paid. I believe he may be a guy that does that.
Yeah, I don't know what the money's going to be. We've had the conversations, what free agency is going to look like, how the game is going to be affected long-term for the next handful of years plus. That's all on the table. How many teams are going to be in the postseason? That will affect money somewhere down the road. But I just like the idea that in October, you can be Bobby Richardson. You can be Aaron Boone. You can be any of those guys, and you're going to be talked about differently if you do it on the biggest stage.
Marcell Ozuna was huge for this team all year, Tug. I mean, the question all offseason was, well, how are they going to find a way to fill the void left by Josh Donaldson? Well, Marcell Ozuna is a legitimate MVP candidate.
No question.
Matter of fact, he entered the action yesterday, Game 60, with a shot at a Triple Crown. Yeah. Who could have seen that coming?
I got Marcell Ozuna and Austin Riley for about $5 million less than what Josh Donaldson got as well. So there's other things when you talk about, was he 46 times better than Austin Riley? The guy missed 30 games because of a calf. You don't even know what he's going to be in the postseason. I got a guy to play third base who's not Josh Donaldson, but I got a left fielder who more than made up for the numbers.
When we come back here on the Braves postseason preview show on the Braves Radio Network, we'll catch up with Joe Simpson from the Braves Radio Network. And, guys, we'll talk to him about everything that he's seen this season, what he expects out of the postseason, and we'll do that next here on the Braves Radio Network and on YouTube.
Hi, everybody. Joe Simpson here. And when I ask people to name their favorite dish made with Georgia pecans, they frequently offer up the classic pecan pie. And while I love a big piece of pie, there's so much more you can do with Georgia pecans. Like snacking, for example. Did you know that Georgia pecans have the highest antioxidant levels of any nut? And they're packed with fiber and healthy fats, too. So next time you're looking for delicious and a healthy snack, grab a bag of pecans. And remember, make sure they're Georgia grown.
Episode 2 of UGA 40 is available now. The Fan's new podcast with quarterback Buck Bellew. Academy Sports and Outdoors presents this look back at the 1980 season. Sponsored by Superior Plumbing and Southern Link Wireless. Relive the Dogs' first big homestand of the 1980 season, including a wild ride against Clemson and the heroics of Scott Werner. Download Episode 2 of UGA 40 now at thepodcastpark.com or wherever you get your favorite fan podcasts. The Braves are division champs for the third straight season as the Braves charge into the 2020 playoffs. Count on the Fan to bring you all the latest news, the biggest names in baseball, and every pitch of the Braves postseason. Stream Braves postseason baseball for free on the Fan app. Download it now for Apple or Android. This is where the NL East champs play. The Fan. The Fan kicking off your NFL Sunday with the biggest pregame show in the South. Nick Cellini and Chris Dimino are back with Atlanta's official NFL pregame show, presented by Corona Extra. They're live starting at 10 a.m. this Sunday, walking you up to the 1 p.m. kickoff with the latest breaking news and the biggest names in football. It's live this Sunday, presented by Corona Extra, live on The Fan and streaming live on the Fan app. run in 2020 is up next.
3-1 smoke deep right center field. This one rising towards the wall, and a home run for Freddie Freeman.
This is the 2020 postseason preview on the Braves Radio Network.
So excited about the Braves being in the playoffs. I grew up a Braves fan, so I'm always pulling for the Braves. But this is more of a show focusing on what they're going to do, but focusing on what the other teams throughout Major League Baseball will be doing in this postseason as well. This is the Braves postseason preview show on the Braves Radio Network, as well as on our flagship 680 The Fans YouTube channel. You can find us there as well. Coming up in just a minute, we'll get Joe Simpson from the Braves Radio Network on and ask him what he expects out of this team. I think he's ready now. So, Joe, we'll bring you on. How are you tonight, sir?
Good, Tug. How are you doing tonight?
I could not be better. Anytime you're talking Braves baseball, it's a good night. And, the Braves, they welcome in a team that's been really, really hot as of late, and the Cincinnati Reds. And the funny thing about the Reds is they're kind of taking the role that the Braves have always had with that power pitching. And the Braves have this year struggled a little bit with the starting rotation. So how do the Braves plan for this? Because it's not anything that they've really ever done before.
Well, they haven't. They're usually relying on starting pitching, right? And it is probably the one question mark that everybody talks about heading into the postseason. But the way Kyle Wright has pitched recently and the impression that Ian Anderson made on everyone, I think they feel a whole lot better going into this. Trevor Bauer will go for the first game for Cincinnati. He's the odds-on favorite to win the Cy Young, but let's not forget that Max Fried might have been that guy were it not for his stint on the IL. And also, as good as the Cincinnati starting pitching is, look up the numbers for the Braves for the year, and you'll see that they have a win over Garrett Cole. They have a win over Aaron Nola, Max Scherzer as well. So it's not like they shy away from some of the aces for different ball clubs, and I know they won't shy away tomorrow.
Joe, I know it's completely unfair, but I've been asking of Ian Anderson, he of the grand total of 6 starts, can he pull a Steve Avery? And what's kind of interesting is Avery had his 20-year 1990 season to sort of get it kicked around a little bit, go into the offseason, and then become what he became at 21 in the postseason. How unfair is that to ask for somebody to be something like that at 22 years old with 6 starts?
It depends on how good their stuff is, and his stuff is really good, Chris. I mean, if he was a Midland-type pitcher, you'd say maybe it's not fair to put those kind of expectations on him. But he has shown really good stuff against some good ball clubs, especially in his debut, and he beat the Yankees. So I'm sure he's not going to shy away from this either, and I look for him to have a good game. I just feel like this is going to be a series, and it was a tough draw for the Braves, but this is a series going to be dictated by the Braves bats against the Reds pitching. Who's going to prevail?
Hey, Joe, you've obviously known Brian Snitker for a couple of decades now. When you think of everything this team has gone through this year with the rotation, with losing, Ozzie Albies for a month, Ronald Acuna Jr. was down as long as he has been, in and out of the rotation, lineup being banged up. What can you say about the job Snit has done with this job specifically? We know he was the manager of the year. He's been in that conversation, but to get this team to where it has been this year, what can you say about the job he's done all year long?
You can't say it enough, Kevin. I think he's certainly going to be in the running for manager of the year again. There's going to be some other candidates, but I don't think you could have asked. I don't think Braves fans could have asked more of Brian and what he's done, especially where it comes when the pitching comes into play here. As a former catcher, I think that helps him when he's assessing some of the various talent. But when Soroka got hurt and went down and they started having to figure out how the rotation was going to shape up after that, I thought Brian had an instrumental role in that and trying to figure out these guys. And let's not forget that when it came to Fultonevich and Newcomb, he also realized things were not getting better there and had to do something different. That was a big roll of the dice very early in the 60-game season, and yet he was willing to take that on and take whatever criticism might follow. But those were the right moves.
Hey, Joe, the other thing that's interesting is because we're around it every day, we know these guys as everyday, every-name type players, but the country might not know Dansby Swanson, doesn't know Travis d'Arnaud, doesn't know Austin Riley. And I think we'd all agree the greatest thing about October baseball is you don't know who it's going to be. You don't know who's going to get an opportunity or 3. You don't know what they're going to do with it. But I love the idea that guys from beyond the left field wall, not to us locally, but to the nation, are going to have an opportunity to get their names known. I just think it's the one thing that baseball has over every other sport is you don't have to be a star. You'd like your stars to play like them, but you don't have to be a star to come up really big in October.
No, you don't, Chris. And all you got to do is look up the numbers on Mark Lemke in the postseason and figure that out. It's always somebody that you least expect. And for that matter, for Cincinnati, they have those types of players too.
Yep.
60% of their runs came from home runs. They've got a lineup that anybody can step up and pop one out, and it might not be the guys that you would expect to do that. So it's going to be a test for the Braves pitchers to try to hold them down, as well as the Reds to try to figure out who is this guy in the Braves lineup and why did he have such a good year, and how am I going to keep them in the yard and keep them from coming through. What Dansby did in the later stages of the ball games from the 7th inning on, I don't know if it's matched by anybody in baseball. So they better figure that out. When you start talking about who you want to beat you or don't want to beat you late in the game, you better have him on your list.
Speaking with Joe Simpson on the Braves postseason preview show here on the Braves Radio Network. So I'm going to pin you down. Who is it going to be for the Braves? Who's going to be the guy that you expect is going to come out of nowhere, that's going to make the biggest difference on this team? Obviously, you could choose Freddie Freeman because that's the given. He's the MVP. But like the guys that Domino was talking about, who's the guy that's going to show up big in October for us?
We got some guys to pick from, some real good guys. We got some obvious guys. I'm going to go with the former Cincinnati Red, Adam Duvall. He played for them, had great years in the past against them. So he'll want to put a knife in them if he can, and I'm going to pick him to be the sleeper.
Hey, Joe, speaking of sleeper, has there ever been a guy who's had a quieter MVP campaign than a guy like Marcell Ozuna this year?
Oh, I thought when you were talking about sleeper, I thought you were talking about Ben Ingram. But, I would say no. Everybody's talking about Freddie for the MVP, and the Braves have 2 of them. Marcel's numbers are outstanding. Jim Powell and I were talking about it a couple of days ago about how much fun we have watching Marcell just come to the plate, regardless of what he does on each at bat. He has so much fun just getting to the plate to start doing his thing, and he's been tremendous. He's been a great asset in the clubhouse, I'm told. So we want all these guys to do well, but we're especially happy for him.
And it was a strange ride to get here, Joe. We were talking about before you came on the idea that you can tell me whatever you want about any award and what it matters and what needs to have an asterisk. I'm just going to tell you, if you come up big like we just talked about in October, when you do your life resume, your baseball resume, nobody's going to think about it other than you had a big postseason. If it was a strange time to get to playoff baseball, I think once the calendar turns on Tuesday for the American League, Wednesday for the National League, all of that is done. You're either going to be that guy who has a big postseason or you're not. You're going to be the team that wins or the team that doesn't. And I do think while the first 60 could be talked about maybe differently, I don't think the postseason anybody has to apologize for anything or anybody's going to be shortchanged when it comes down to looking at a guy's career if he has a big October in 2020 and becomes a champion even.
Right. Well, that's in keeping with just about any postseason you look at, Chris, knowing that somebody that comes up big always is remembered for being able to do that. And I think about, again, history. Carlos Beltran, it wasn't that long ago when he had that monster postseason for the Houston Astros and then parlayed that into a huge contract with the Mets. You never know how good your timing is until you play well in the postseason. And as a free agent, a guy like Marcell Ozuna could parlay that into even more interest from teams if he plays well in the post. And let's not forget, we all have a long memory about what happened last year with facing the Cardinals, and Marcell had a big involvement in that and had a lot to do with them eliminating the Braves. So he played well.
Visiting with Joe Simpson here on the Braves Radio Network. Joe, I wanted to get your thoughts on playing these games in empty ballparks and how much that could benefit some of these young guys like Ian Anderson, like Kyle Wright. They're maybe not going to feel the added pressure of knowing there's 45,000 people in the building. Do you think that might help these guys just relax a little bit, slow the game down, maybe breathe a little bit easier when they take the mound for their first postseason experiences?
Well, Kevin, they're all going to know what's on the line.
Yeah.
Even as young kids, they know what's at stake here. I tell you, with this first round, I think who it's going to benefit are the road teams, not having to go into a hostile environment. Cincinnati coming into Truist Park with no fans in the stands. They went into Minnesota in that ballpark where Minnesota hadn't lost a series all year, and they just won a series there to end the season. I think it's going to benefit those visiting teams a ton, not having loud crowds on them and rooting for the home team. So while the young guys and the young pitchers for the Braves are going to know what's at stake, I think what the Reds are going to enjoy and other road teams is the fact that they'll be able to play without any interruptions, let's say, from the crowd.
Joe Simpson here on the Braves postseason preview show on the Braves Radio Network. Joe, we appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a good show, guys, and somebody wake Ben up.
Sorry, we'll do our best.
Joe, enjoy this postseason.
All right, guys.
No doubt about it. My man is A-plus, world-class. Love listening to that guy broadcast games. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've not been bothered one bit by the fans not being in the stands. I want to be in there myself, but watching games, listening to games, I don't have that I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all. I thought for sure in the beginning that was going to be something that would irritate the daylights out of me trying to watch a Braves game with nobody in the stands. Have you guys felt that way too?
You know, it's funny, Tug. We were just talking about this a couple of days ago. I've almost gotten used to it at this point.
Me too.
Where, I look at it and, not having fans in the stands, it doesn't feel weird anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Where when I watch replays of games from last year, I go, whoa, you forgot what a full house looked like. So,
well, Ronald hits a home run in this building last year, and all of a sudden in a postseason game, the place goes crazy.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen this year. You can pump in whatever you want. You're going to fist pump on your couch, whatever you decide to do in terms of watching these games. But it will feel different in those moments.
Yeah.
It just will, because you're going to realize, when you see left center field and there's nobody in there and boom, a ball hits a seat. I'm okay with it during the regular season. It is, I think, going to get back to a little bit weird for me in a postseason situation.
You know how sometimes, guys, they say the building was shaking? Mm-hmm. Well, I think back to 2013, and Braves fans don't want to relive this moment, but I'm going to go there anyway. Juan Uribe, the two-run homer off of David Carpenter. I had a glass of water sitting next to me in Dodger Stadium in the press box, and it was literally, there was ripples going through it. The press box was shaking.
Yeah.
So you're right, Chris. You will miss that aspect of it. You can pump in as much noise and as much ambient background sound, but nothing will ever replace the feel when you can actually feel a building moving in big moments like that.
We have 2 minutes?
Yeah,
Can we do 2 minutes of the Reds preview? Remember what they did. They went out and they got Bauer. They went out and they got Nick Castellanos. They actually did some things this year. September 1st, they're 6 games under. They were done. And all of a sudden that 16-8 finish, and all of a sudden they find themselves in the postseason. I like David Bell. I like the way he carries himself. We were talking about him a little bit before the show started. Mike Moustakas is a guy. He's a guy. Cincinnati had been floundering a little bit, trying to find guys, money guys, big-time moment guys. Trevor Bauer's been a guy. Sonny Gray's resurrected his career.
Yeah, he has.
Nick Castellanos was one of those guys we were talking about here. Hey, you know what? That guy will fit in any place. He fits there. They don't hit a lot of doubles. They hit a bunch of home runs. They don't get on base a lot. On-base percentage was awful. But I think they've got guys. And it's the starting pitcher, no doubt, that you have to worry the most about. But I got to tell you something. This lineup didn't perform the way they were supposed to. But there are guys in this lineup that have a capability of performing in a much bigger way than they did for these 60 games.
I want to say that they are 7th overall in the league hitting home runs, but as a team batting average, like 211. So you probably, because you mentioned doubles, you probably don't get a lot of that. Home runs is what you got to worry about with those guys.
And in a ballpark. And remember, they go to Japan, by the way. They haven't stolen a lot of bases, but nobody in baseball really has. And they go get a 32-year-old from Japan who's a leadoff hitter. Against right-handed pitchers, Shogo Akiyama is a leadoff hitter for them who had 8 stolen bases, I think, for the year. So they went out and realized they had a need in another way, and they found it and brought it over from Japan.
And they have a guy in their lineup that I don't think a lot of folks are really all that familiar with. Eugenio Suarez led them with 15 home runs. A couple of years ago, he was 40-plus. Now, you have the usual suspects of Castellanos and Winker and Votto and Moustakas, but this Suarez, he is really impressive. He can hit the ball a mile. They do strike out a lot, but they do hit a lot of home runs. But this is a team, Tug, they don't have to score a ton of runs. They've got the starting pitching.
Right.
If they can squeak out 3 or 4 runs a night, they feel good about their chances to win.
So that makes me nervous a little bit, only in the fact that I've seen Braves teams last year, bats go cold, right? This year I do feel like it's a different Braves team. They've got a different vibe to them. They play the game differently.
The winning late is still intact. They can, and they have an ability to do that. They're going to get last swings here, obviously, for 3 games. If it needs 3 games, I think that's a good thing. Joe talked about Dansby in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, what his numbers are. I just know that Bauer's a guy that I don't think David Bell's coming out to get him. I don't think Bauer's leaving the game. I think Sonny Gray is probably now on that end of his career where he goes, everybody thought I was dead. I'll show you. I'm not five and diving either. So I hope you get to them because you want to either get pitch counts up, you want to have the manager think about taking guys like out. We'll find out if the Braves can do it quickly and early.
Didn't it feel like Cincinnati was such a great landing spot, too, for a guy like Sonny Gray? When you look, he struggled in New York. That New York thing is real. A lot of guys, they can't handle that pressure.
Brian McCann didn't like it.
Exactly right. And you go around the game, there's a lot of guys that will say, man, it wears on you. And it felt like going to Cincinnati, to your point, Chris, he resurrected his career. It was the perfect landing spot for him.
MVP guy in Freddie Freeman. We will invite him to join us via Zoom next on the Braves postseason preview show here on the Braves Radio Network, as well as on the flagship of Braves Radio here in Atlanta, 680 The Fans YouTube channel. You can connect with us either way. We will be right back.
Hi, everybody. Joe Simpson here. And when I ask people to name their favorite dish made with Georgia pecans, they frequently offer up the classic pecan pie. And while I love a big piece of pie, there's so much more you can do with Georgia pecans. Like snacking, for example. Did you know that Georgia pecans have the highest antioxidant levels of any nut? And they're packed with fiber and healthy fats, too. So next time you're looking for delicious and a healthy snack, grab a bag of pecans. And remember, make sure they're Georgia grown.
Episode 2 of UGA 40 is available now. The Fan's new podcast with quarterback Buck Bellew. Academy Sports and Outdoors presents this look back at the 1980 season. Sponsored by Superior Plumbing and Southern Link Wireless. Relive the Dogs' first big homestand of the 1980 season, including a wild ride against Clemson and the heroics of Scott Werner. Download Episode 2 of UGA 40 now at thepodcastpark.com or wherever you get your favorite fan podcasts. The Braves are division champs for the third straight season as the Braves charge into the 2020 playoffs. Count on the Fan to bring you all the latest news, the biggest names in baseball, and every pitch of the Braves postseason. Stream Braves postseason baseball for free on the Fan app. Download it now for Apple or Android. This is where the NL East champs play. The Fan. The Fan kicking off your NFL Sunday with the biggest pregame show in the South. Nick Cellini and Chris Dimino are back with Atlanta's official NFL pregame show, presented by Corona Extra. They're live starting at 10 a.m. this Sunday, walking you up to the 1 p.m. kickoff with the latest breaking news and the biggest names in football. It's live this Sunday, presented by Corona Extra, live on The Fan and streaming live on the Fan app.
In the air to center field and deep on the run, still running at the gate of the bullpen. That ball is gone. Home run, Dansby.
This is the Braves 2020 postseason preview with Tug Coward and Chris Domino on the Atlanta Braves Radio Network.
Also joined by Kevin McAlpin here as we look at Truist Park on a gorgeous night in Atlanta. This is the Braves postseason preview show here on the Braves Radio Network, as well as on our flagship 680 The Fans YouTube channel. You can find us there. You can actually see us there as we welcome Freddie Freeman via Zoom to the show. Freddie, thanks so much for taking the time for us tonight.
Hey, guys. How are you? I think this is working. I'm not very tech savvy. Bear with me.
Did you get your kiddo to set it up?
My wife is the one that sets this stuff up for me because I don't know how to do stuff.
Freddie?
Yeah.
The idea that scouting has been so different this year because you guys haven't seen them and there's not scouts in the building. When you get the reports, what do you think the difference might be this year when you really don't have a familiarity? Now, you know who these guys are. There's enough paperwork on them, I'm sure, accumulated over the last couple of years. But what do you think as a hitter, not having what you would normally have in your hand, perhaps?
I mean, it's going to be different, obviously, but a lot of us, pretty much of all of us have faced these guys, so you can go off your memory. And obviously, today and tomorrow, there's going to be advanced meetings and all that. We're not going to be able to sit down and meet together, but in our batting cages, Chris, there's TVs and stuff, so we can put up the advanced reports. We can watch the video while we're getting ready in the cage for practice tomorrow. So we're going to have all our advanced reports that we're just going to have to go over individually and go off of memory of what we've done against them in the past as well.
Freddie, how much has your day-to-day routines changed this year? I mean, I know you guys a lot of times like to get to the ballpark early, get extra work in. You talked about those advanced meetings. How different has this year been, those 3 or 4 hours before the game to get yourselves ready?
It's definitely different. We have report times when we're allowed to get to the yard. We're not allowed to be there a certain time before. We have to limit our time in the cage. There is obviously no hitters meetings anymore during this year, so we had to go with kind of what they put in the batting cage on the computer, and they put papers up on the mirror right there. So it's kind of get the information yourself. They have, you can't go in the video room during the game, so like a lot of guys like Markakis and some other guys who are big in-game video guys. That had to change their routines. You're not allowed to have more than 5 guys in a weight room at a time, so you got to get there at a certain time. So everything's just moving. It was really hectic at the beginning of the year, but I think we really locked it down early on and got everyone's schedules together and started figuring things out. And you just got to make adjustments. It's a game of adjustments. We've all made adjustments in the game of baseball, and this was just another adjustment we had to make.
Having a great conversation with Braves first baseman Freddie Freeman. Freddie is a guy that has been impacted specifically, you yourself by COVID-19. How proud are you of the way the Braves and Major League Baseball has handled this? Because there was a couple bumps in the road, but everybody took it seriously. Everybody has seemingly done it the right way, and now we've made it all the way through the season, which, if you read the LA Times, they said would never happen. And we have, and now to the playoffs. Man, how proud are you of the Braves and baseball for being able to accomplish that?
Very proud. Us personally, we didn't have any hiccups throughout the whole season. All our guys took it seriously. When we were on the road, everyone stayed in their rooms. That was the big thing. For me, I thought people would get it while they were at home because of their spouse going to the grocery store or something like that. If you follow the protocols, what Major League Baseball had put in place during the season, I didn't really believe that you could get it on the road because we were in a room the whole time. We got on a bus that was sanitized and clean, and we went to the ballpark that was sanitized and clean every day and came right back to our room. So I didn't view that as the road of getting it. I thought it was going to get it at home if we were going to get it. And our guys took it to heart, man. We had it was hard. I mean, 60 games, it really did feel like a full season for what we had to go through and sitting in hotel rooms. It was definitely just a different year, but I think we, as a group, as a union, we did really, really well getting through this season. And we only had 2 bumps, and that was early on in the season. And I think maybe we needed that, just a little scare of what could potentially go wrong if you made a mistake. And I think all the other teams really, really did a great job.
Hey, Freddie, you got a few years under your belt now hitting at this ballpark. And I remember when they were building it, I think you were the one, I think I might have been standing there with you when you were looking at measurements. You were looking at what the dimensions were. And how the other park, when you came off some road trips, you'd put your head on your own pillow and you go, I don't even know if it's worth being home right now. This place takes away everything. What do you think about this park now a few years in?
I like it. I mean, they told me when they were building it that it was the wind was going to be blowing to left center. That would help, obviously, me because my power alley is in left center. They obviously moved right center in 15 feet, which is huge. 390 at Turner Field was a poke. It was really hard to get it out of there. And even 385 at Truist is hard to get out of there. But the wind is kind of constantly to left center. It's not as much as I think they thought it was going to be since they built up the hotel and the Comcast buildings and stuff like that. So that kind of blocked it. But I really think it's a fair park. It's obviously a lot better to hit in than Turner Field because, that was a huge field. But this, I feel like it's fair. You can get them down the lines at like 94, 95 off your bat, on some days. But to get it out to the gaps by our bullpen and the 385 design, I feel like it's pretty fair. But it's just such a beautiful field. So it just kind of just makes you really excited to be there because and want to play well because what an amazing job they did with it.
Freddie Freeman joining us here on the Braves Radio Network. All right, Freddie, I'm going to ask you the elephant in the room. What would an MVP award mean for you here in 2020? I know you're a guy that puts the team first. Obviously, your goal is this group and everyone you go to war with every day. A lot of folks are talking about you right there at the top for an MVP. What would that mean for you personally?
I haven't really taken a step back and really thought about that. And, I don't really have time to with a game coming up in 2 days. But, I was talking to my dad when we were in Baltimore on the road, I think the last road trip. And, he was just telling me how proud he was of me. And that just means the most to me, when he says stuff like that. But, I did. It was just a weird start for my year. I had 5 days to get ready. I was just trying to get healthy really at the beginning. My wife was taking care of me. My aunt was in our house too. She got really sick too for a couple of days. So it was just kind of chaotic. And for me to even just get in all 60 games, I'm just pretty proud of that. But, ultimately, obviously, I take a step back and look at what I was able to accomplish this year. And just with the group of guys that we did it with, we've had so many hurdles to jump through with injuries and stuff like that for the Braves this year that for us to win another division title, that was huge for us. And, the only MVP I care about for a Braves player to win is that World Series MVP because that means we won the whole thing. So hopefully we can get one of those this year.
I want to bring you back 3 years ago, and I've talked about it on the air here locally, and I think I saw something the other night that actually sandwiches it. A few years ago down in spring training, you basically let it be known I haven't had a meaningful at-bat in September or October in too long a period of time. And I thought that was really interesting because I'll also tell people that we were there the day you signed your extension, and we actually taught you that day. And you said, look, I don't want to be the face of anything. I want to play baseball. I want to play winning baseball. I want to be around good guys. I want to be a good teammate. And it was fine. It was a number of years ago. It was fine. I saw you walk over to Max Fried the other day when he turned his ankle, and I don't care who else was going to talk to him. You let him know a truth because as soon as you were done speaking to him, and he did more listening than talking, he got up and he went away. I don't know if that would have happened unless you were the one who spoke to him at that point. And I do think that there's something about the respect factor, the captain of a baseball team, whether he's appointed that or not. I really think those 2 moments, 3 years ago when you made that statement, and then what I saw you do with Max Fried the other day, is to me the complete evolution of who you are, not just as a player, but what you mean to this team.
Yeah, and and that's the one thing I care about is playing in postseason baseball. Obviously it didn't turn out the way we wanted to last year, me personally as well. So, it's grown over time. I'm not going to be that guy that's going to sit in the dugout and scream at anybody. I'm not. But I felt right there. We had a bigger picture, and that was Wednesday. In 2 days was for Max to be ready to pitch right there. There's no reason to go out there and land awkwardly and hurt your ankle and be out for the whole season. Going into the postseason. So I just wanted to let him know that I appreciate that he wanted to stay in that game and keep going, but there was a bigger picture. And, that's just a conversation we had. And, I feel like I'm able to do that because I play every day. I respect the game. I want to be out there. And Often when I talk, I really truly mean what I'm about to say to that person. So, I'm very fortunate to be in the situation now. Max is ready to roll. He's healthy. He feels great. And, it's gonna be huge for us on Wednesday to have him in there.
Well, man, we wish you the best of luck along with the rest of the team. I'll leave you with this final comment about something you did that I feel like humanizes you more than you probably realize, and that is coming home to see your kid play ball. Every parent can relate to that, having to be away from work. Kevin McAlpin can relate to it. Domino's had to do it. I've had to do it with my son Jacob. Yeah. And that was one of those stories that blew up bigger than just a baseball story. That was a real life story, man. It's no surprise that you did it, but congratulations for doing it, man. Because that's the most important thing, is being a dad.
Yeah, that's first and foremost, and I know all you guys know that the family is number one. I've always said I've always wanted to be a dad, and I got 2 more boys coming as well. So. That's my favorite thing to be. That's first and foremost, is being a dad. So I had the opportunity to not miss that, and I wasn't going to miss that. I'm going to miss things over my time playing baseball. We all know that. Everybody that works knows that. They're going to miss some things here and there, but that was just one thing I couldn't miss. And this was pre-bubble, thank goodness. So I was able to get on a plane, get a bird, and get down here and see him. I was quite tired that day, but it was so worth it. My son was so happy to play T-ball that day. So I know we all make sacrifices in this game and in the job world, but it's one that I'm really glad I made, because, that just made everything, being a dad, just be worth it. So I appreciate that, guys. I really do.
Freddie, we know how close you and Dan Ugla were. Now Charlie is playing T-ball with Dan Ugla's son. Did the parents on the other team go, wait a minute, how does this happen? We got this kind of pedigree on the same team. How'd that happen?
We haven't had a game yet, so it's just been practices, so the parents haven't seen yet. But there's also Ryan Howard's daughters on our team. Yeah. We got a good group, some baseball legacies going on down there. So Dan's not the head coach; he's just the dad helping out. So with Ryan, they're just helping out. But it's just so much fun. We knew 8 of the kids going into it, so it's just a good group, and the moms are having fun. That's what it's all about, and the kids are having a blast, So that's what it's all about. But the games are coming in, but we're in a bubble, so I'm not gonna be able to see the games, so we'll see what they say afterwards.
Zoom, baby.
Hey, Freddie, real quick, it's not tampering because he's on your own team. You never know who's watching or listening. Marcelo Zuna. I'm assuming you wouldn't mind if he came back and stuck around for a little while longer.
Definitely not. For him to come in after what Josh did for us last year, he stepped in and did the same thing for us this year. Huge bat, right-handed bat in the middle of the lineup. Just posting every day, played all 60 games. I think that's the biggest thing there is in this game, is to be able to be accountable and just be able to have that manager write your name in the lineup every single day. And he was a force. He was a force from the very beginning. It was a treat to watch. I was glad he was behind me. I got some more pitches to hit because of him, and just an absolute treat in the clubhouse. Always having fun. Always a great guy. So I would definitely be one for him to re-sign with us.
Freddie, we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck against the Reds. We know you guys are going to stay red hot at the plate and carry this team to a championship. So we're pulling for you, and we appreciate it.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Appreciate it, Freddie. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, Freddie.
Awesome guy. I mean, what a guy to have as the face of your franchise. A guy that people can relate to because he's doing the same things we're doing, but at the same time, he's one of the biggest stars in the game too.
Well, he just does them better.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he just does them a little bit better.
I think that's fair.
I'd asked you. I know we're going to do a quick show and tell. It sort of feels like October, as you said.
Yeah.
I think all of us. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to get jaded. You don't want to feel like, oh, you're owed anything.
Mm-hmm.
You cover a team, you get a little spoiled. They go to the postseason. I was fortunate enough to be around for a lot of the postseason run, the whole thing actually, except for the first couple of years for the Braves. But I do think there's something about October, and I think even in our job, you're allowed to be a fan. You're allowed to root. You're allowed, quite honestly, when people are banging on baseball, and a lot of people have over the years, to go, hey, man, if it ain't your thing, it ain't your thing. I'm not here to try to convert you, but I do think there's little things in October, so I just asked real quick if you had something that represents sort of playoff baseball for you. Bring it in. We got a little quick show and tell.
Yeah, I did real quick, and you won't be able to see this, Chris, but this is a scorecard from when I covered the Phillies. We all know I'm from outside of Philadelphia. 2 seasons I covered the Phillies. This is going back to October the 6th of 2010, and this is my scorecard from the night that Roy Halladay threw the no-hitter coincidentally against the Cincinnati Reds. I've held on to this thing. It's been in my collection. One day I'm going to frame it and put it up real nice, and put the credential with it as well.
Yeah.
I know that's a big deal in our world, but it's just something I've held on to over the years, and it's always kind of cool to relive it. That was just one of the most dominant nights I've ever seen in a ballpark.
Because yours is really, really cool, I'm going to give you mine quickly because it's nothing more than this 1991 Braves World Series logo. I was a freshman in high school. I'd never seen the Braves be in a World Series or a playoffs or anything. I'd always seen the Braves struggle. And so that was the turning point for me, man. I remember screaming in my parents' living room, jumping up and down. My parents had already gone to bed, and I went and woke them up. My dad is the reason I love the Braves like I do and love baseball like I do. Woke them up from a dead sleep, and because they had to work the next day. It's a late night. And I said the Braves are going to the World Series, and both my parents get out, and we watch the whole post game and everything that was happening there. It was so exciting for me. So that 1991 World Series logo, every time I see it, that reminds me of that. Now, what you got is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, let me just tell you this, though, real quick. So you know where I was this day?
Where?
I was in San Francisco. The Braves were playing the Giants the next day. It was workout day. Mm-hmm. Chipper Jones, and this is a true story, Frank Wren comes out and said Chipper Jones just called, and I think he said the last 22 or 23 pitches of Roy Halladay's no-hitter. Chipper was watching it.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk to Chipper later on. But he must have been in there calling this breaking ball away. Up and in, fastball up and in. And Frank Wren came out. And Frank Wren's been around baseball for a long time. He said, "You're not going to believe what just happened." Chipper Jones just literally called. I think he said the last 22 pitches of Roy Halladay's no-hitter. He was just watching it, bumping it out. And then it was literally workout day against the Giants out in San Francisco. So that day I remember because the next day the Braves played the Giants. All right, real quick. I tell my kids all the time, if you are not happy on Credential Day, when you get your credential, it's like adult Christmas. Yep. And you get a credential, and it basically gives you a key to this building. Any other building in the sport that you cover. But you get a credential for the postseason, it becomes even better. The thing that I brought in, and I have the 1995, these are clubhouse badges. And if you get this, that's good.
Yep.
You might be sitting in an auxiliary seat, but if you can't get into the clubhouse, it just doesn't feel the same.
You're right.
When you get this attached, I don't even know if anybody could see this, but this is what they give you when you're allowed to go into the clubhouse. And this is the ultimate Christmas gift. This is Kid Candy Store and every other cliche that you can think of. This is the 95 NLCS.
Let me peek at
clubhouse badge.
Wow.
And the World Series one, the winning one, is in a frame with some other stuff in it. But it's just really interesting. When you get handed this in the postseason, and you know you have an opportunity now to witness some crazy stuff. When you were a kid, probably like you, if I went to a game, I was 3 rows from the top.
Yep.
I was literally 3 rows from the top. And basically, when you get these and then get this, they hand you a key and they say, go ahead. Not only go do your job because you have a job to do, but go enjoy doing your job because you can't believe that you're actually going to be allowed and afforded a chance to do it.
You walk on the field, you sit in the dugout, you go wherever you want. You're right. It is like Christmas morning. You're right.
Do it in Yankee Stadium, and all of a sudden there's Reggie Jackson around the cage. And when you go to these World Series, there's certainly other players, and there's former players, and there's a buzz, and it's unbelievable to be down on the field at any of these moments. Yeah. It's just an incredible thing to be allowed to do things like this.
I graduated high school right before that happened, right? It was, so it would have been, we graduate, what is it, June, July, or whatever it is. And then I joined the Navy. So, man, I was getting ready to ship off to the United States Navy when this is happening.
Wow.
That was like one of my last moments at home right before I leave to go to boot camp in Great Lakes, Illinois. That World Series to me is the most special, and people goof a little bit, whether it's, around here, Georgia's 80 National Championship or 95 World Series. It's been a few years. We're going to get back there and do it, but that, for me, it was one of the biggest moments of my life.
It doesn't matter if you do it on the road because it still counts. But when you do it at home, like they did in '95, it was just it's an incredible thing. And again, we appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. We hope for a really good run for the Braves that ends up in another World Series. But at the end of the day, it's much appreciated, the idea that you can grab a Freddie Freeman.
That's cool.
You're going to grab the manager and the general manager coming up here as well to talk a little bit about what's right in front of them.
This is the Braves postseason preview show on the Braves Radio Network at Sports and Social at Live at the Battery. They're hooking all the folks up here with food and drinks, and we're about ready to get into some of that. that too. And we'll come back in the next hour. We've got Alex Anthopoulos. We've got Brian Snitker in the next hour. Ben Ingram will join us, and then even Chipper Jones will join into the show here on the Braves Radio Network. So we appreciate you sticking around. We will be right back.
Hi, everybody. Joe Simpson here. And when I ask people to name their favorite dish made with Georgia pecans, they frequently offer up the classic pecan pie. And while I love a big piece of pie, there's so much more you can do with Georgia pecans. Like snacking, for example. Did you know that Georgia pecans have the highest antioxidant levels of any nut? And they're packed with fiber and healthy fats, too. So next time you're looking for delicious and a healthy snack, grab a bag of pecans. And remember, make sure they're Georgia grown.
Episode 2 of UGA 40 is available now. The Fan's new podcast with quarterback Buck Bellew. Academy Sports and Outdoors presents this look back at the 1980 season. Sponsored by Superior Plumbing and Southern Link Wireless. Relive the Dogs' first big homestand of the 1980 season, including a wild ride against Clemson and the heroics of Scott Werner. Download Episode 2 of UGA 40 now at thepodcastpark.com or wherever you get your favorite fan podcasts. The Braves are division champs for the third straight season as the Braves charge into the 2020 playoffs. Count on the Fan to bring you all the latest news, the biggest names in baseball, and every pitch of the Braves postseason. Stream Braves postseason baseball for free on the Fan app. Download it now for Apple or Android. This is where the NL East champs play. The Fan. The Fan kicking off your NFL Sunday with the biggest pregame show in the South. Nick Cellini and Chris Domino are back with Atlanta's official NFL pregame show, presented by Corona Extra. They're live starting at 10 a.m. this Sunday, walking you up to the 1 p.m. kickoff with the latest breaking news and the biggest names in football. It's live this Sunday, presented by Corona Extra, live on The Fan and streaming live on the Fan app.
Visit Billy Howell Ford online at howellford.com or come see us.
2-1 high fly ball deep center field. This one might leave again. Marcell Ozuna just rocked one over the left center field wall.
This is the 2020 postseason preview on the Braves Radio Network.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Braves Radio Network for the Braves postseason preview show. Tug Cowart, Kevin McAlpin, Chris Domino at Sports and Social, at Live at the Battery right here next to Truist Park. We asked Joe Simpson who he thought would be the guy, and Kevin McAlpin will come to you and ask who is going to be the guy for the Braves. Joe Simpson chose Adam Duvall, who has been incredible for the Braves. Who's your guy?
Tug, I'm going to go Ozzie Albies.
Okay.
Since he's come off the injured list, he's been a totally different guy. Last 18 games, he's been just red hot at the plate. 5 home runs. He's driven in 13, hitting .338, a .953 OPS. Since he's returned, you can see a clear difference from Ozzie Albies, Chris, the first couple of days of the season when he was trying to play through that wrist to where he is now. I'm going to go Ozzie Albies, a big difference maker for this lineup.
Yeah, that version of him that actually went down and missed more games than people ever thought he was going to miss because it was a day-to-day, oh, wait, it's not. That version of him would not have helped this team push to win in the division. This version of him that came back certainly did. I'm going to throw Travis d'Arnaud in there, too.
Absolutely.
I think he's a guy that, whether he has to DH, gosh willing that we get through the first 3 games, I think there'll be a run. There'll be a moment if it's a 5-game series where he'll DH, not catch. I think he's going to catch all 3 of these games. Yeah. I think his bat's going to be in a lineup at a minimum for all 3 of these games. I kind of like Travis d'Arnaud because you're also going to ask him to help young guys on the mound in an environment that they've never been in. I kind of like the idea that he's the guy 60 feet 6 inches away.
Yeah, no doubt. Is it tacky for me to say Marcell Ozuna is going to be the obvious guy that is going to lead this team hitting home runs, putting them on the board?
Not with the numbers he's put up this season. I think it's a safe pick.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, I mean, you guys were choosing maybe more low-key guys, right? I mean, and not that they're not incredibly important to this Braves lineup because Travis d'Arnaud has been a hitting machine, not only leading that the pitchers but also at the plate. And Adam Duvall earlier, Ozzie Albies, everybody has been so important. They're all kind of like low-key MVPs. When Freddie Freeman and Marcell Ozuna are the obvious choices.
Well, Max Fried is the most important job. He's the tone setter for this whole thing. He's got the most important job. And then when you do, hopefully, mission accomplished, you pick the next guy. And whether it's easy to say Ian Anderson, I won't say it's Ian Anderson. I'd say he needs some help to maybe put him into a position where he can be as good as he can be. But I think Fried really is the tone setter for this whole series.
Yeah, it's going to be important. You want to say hello to someone.
Yeah, we got to do a wave to Dave. Hashtag wave to Dave. He's tuning in. One of my buddies that stopped by the press box a few years ago, and we had some fun. So we appreciate Dave tuning in on the YouTube channel. We gave a good wave to Dave here tonight.
Here at Truist Park at Sports and Social at Live at the Battery, part of the Braves postseason preview show here on the Braves Radio Network and on the flagship 680 The Fans YouTube channel. Keep it here. We'll talk to Alex Anthopoulos, GM of the Atlanta Braves, next here on the Braves Radio Network.
Hi, everybody. Joe Simpson here. And when I ask people to name their favorite dish made with Georgia pecans, they frequently offer up the classic pecan pie. And while I love a big piece of pie, there's so much more you can do with Georgia pecans. Like snacking, for example. Did you know that Georgia pecans have the highest antioxidant levels of any nut? And they're packed with fiber and healthy fats, too. So next time you're looking for delicious and a healthy snack, grab a bag of pecans. And remember, make sure they're Georgia grown.
Episode 2 of UGA 40 is available now. The Fans' new podcast with quarterback Buck Bellew. Academy Sports and Outdoors presents this look back at the 1980 season. Sponsored by Superior Plumbing and Southern Link Wireless. Relive the Dogs' first big homestand of the 1980 season, including a wild ride against Clemson and the heroics of Scott Werner. Download Episode 2 of UGA 40 now at thepodcastpark.com or wherever you get your favorite fan podcasts. The Braves are division champs for the 3rd straight season as the Braves charge into the 2020 playoffs. Count on the Fan to bring you all the latest news, the biggest names in baseball, and every pitch of the Braves postseason. Stream Braves postseason baseball for free on the Fan app. Download it now for Apple or Android. This is where the NL East champs play. The Fan. The Fan kicking off your NFL Sunday with the biggest pregame show in the South. Nick Cellini and Chris Domino are back with Atlanta's official NFL pregame show, presented by Corona Extra. They're live starting at 10 a.m. this Sunday, walking you up to the 1 p.m. kickoff with the latest breaking news and the biggest names in football. It's live this Sunday, presented by Corona Extra, live on The Fan and streaming live on the Fan app. is Atlanta's one and only home for Braves baseball. WCNN North Atlanta, a Dickey broadcasting station. The Fan, 680 and 93.7 FM. A third straight division title? Check. A team loaded with MVP candidates? Check. A deep playoff run in 2020 is up next.
3-1 smoke deep right center field. This one rising towards the wall, and a home run for Freddie Freeman.
This is the 2020 postseason preview on the Braves Radio Network.
Doug Coward, Chris Davino, and joined by Ben Ingram, the voice you just heard. They're calling the Braves games. He's calling incredible events throughout. And I've talked to you about this before, man. Just the feeling of being a part of something huge, and you've been able to do that several times, but this year included.
Oh, it's awesome. And good to be with you guys, by the way. We had some great moments this year, and the fact that we didn't know that we'd have any moments at all, to have them is just tremendous. So I'm just glad we found a way and can't wait to see what happens Wednesday.
No doubt about it. We're going to invite Alex Anthopoulos, general manager of the Atlanta Braves, on to the show with us. Alex, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to talk about this playoff run. Man, the Reds, that's a pretty interesting draw. You have power pitching versus the Braves power hitting. How are you guys going to attack it?
To be on, guys, and look, I think it's great you guys are doing this. It's anything that creates a lot of interest in the Braves, and the fact that there's demand for something like this is awesome. So glad to do stuff like this anytime you guys want me. But no doubt, the Reds they're all good opponents, right? Any team that makes the playoffs, and we've all seen in a potential 3-game series, anything can happen no matter who you're playing. So like anything else, I don't think we read too much into it. Look, I could tell you that we thought we matched up well against the Cardinals last year. I think, obviously, but it didn't work out the way that we wanted. And, we would have told you before, we would have thought that getting to the CS, the LA Dodgers would have been the team that we would have had to have faced if we had advanced. And obviously, the Washington Nationals beat them. So anything can happen in a short series. It's who's the most prepared, who's hot at the right time, and just getting some breaks. So it should be fun, though. They're both really good teams. Obviously, they're the 7th seed, but they're playing a lot better than that. I think people expected them to finish a lot higher. I thought they might get in there and win the NL Central right at the end with a late surge.
Alex, any roster decisions to still make, or has that pretty much been put to bed when you go to bed tonight?
Yeah, so we had a meeting today with the staff just to do like a high-level overview of the Reds, and then we break out into groups. Wash with the infielders, DeMarlo with the outfielders, obviously Seitz and the hitting guys with the hitters, and Cranny and Marty Reed, obviously. So we do a lot of work there, but we did do just a general meeting, and we went through the roster. We have a pretty good idea which way we're going. I feel like we're set. We just decided that we don't have to finalize this until Wednesday at 10 a.m. The first things first is we need to start telling players. So I'll check back in with Snit tomorrow, make sure that after having slept on it, and the discussion with the staff was if anyone had any other thoughts and so on. And when you're putting together a roster, what you're doing is you're role playing. You're talking about scenarios. How are you going to use guys? So if you carry an extra position player, if you carry an arm, and you're just trying to talk through in what scenario would we use this player? What scenario would we use this reliever? And that's where you start to try to line things up to who's going to make the team. Obviously, the obvious guys, the everyday players, the guys in the rotation, your main guys in the bullpen, that goes without saying. When you're filling out your bench and the end of the last few guys in the bullpen, those are the discussions you need to have.
Alex, I want to ask you a few questions about Max Fried. Number one, how is he feeling? And number two, what has been the biggest difference for him going from a place last year where he was on the postseason roster and using relief to now he's going to be your number one starter for the postseason?
Yeah, so I think Max, obviously, he's come a long way since 2018. He was up and down. He'd have a good outing, then a bad one. I think the biggest change was going into 2019. He came in with a slider, and that's continued to get better in 2020. I made some small delivery tweaks. He had a pause in his delivery that he cleaned up in spring training with Rick Kranitz in 2019, and I think that helped as well. And look, going into the postseason, the thought was that he would start for us. Once Chris Martin went down, we needed him out of the bullpen, and he threw some really big innings out of the bullpen for us. But that was a lot of the thought process of this winter, going after and trying to make sure that we had as much in depth in the bullpen as we could get. One, to not have to go trade a bunch of young assets at the trade deadline when everyone's in on trying to get a reliever. It's a tough place to be, to have to try to get those guys. And then also to free up guys where we didn't have to put any starters in the bullpen and so on. But he's made tremendous strides. He's absolutely earned this right. even if Soroka had stayed healthy, though Soroka was outstanding for us a year ago, who knows? Max could have very well still been the game one starter the way his year had started for us. So he's earned it. We're certainly excited about it, and we feel good with him on the mound.
Hopefully our long nightmare is over with the ridiculousness of one league having a DH and the other one not. Obviously coming in Toronto, then in Los Angeles here. You've seen both. The idea as a general manager of putting a team together that might include the DH next year and then maybe after a collective bargaining agreement for years to come after that, how much do you like it? If you were given a vote, would you vote, yeah, let's just do this universally? And then when you have a guy like Marcell Ozuna who could fill the role on a day that he was not playing left field, how good do you feel as a general manager that this thing worked too close to perfection as we get ready to play October baseball?
Yeah, so I'd say, obviously, being in the AL for a long time, growing up in Montreal, being a huge Expos fan growing up, I like the National League style of ball. Then again, being in Toronto, then going back to L.A. So when I got here, I was firmly in I liked the fact that we didn't have a DH. I liked the fact that if you wanted to keep a big bat in the lineup that wasn't as strong defensively, you would have to pay the tax on that, play a bad defender somewhere. And I liked the fact that, you were forced to have to weigh the offense, the defense, all of it. Now, with our team having gone through it, I've enjoyed the DH this past year. And it's not just because Ozuna's played a lot of DH and so on. It's just been enjoyable from a lineup standpoint, the offense. Terry McGurk was telling me this the other day, that obviously he's been part of a lot of great Braves teams. He feels like this is one of the most exciting ones because the offense is so explosive and dynamic and so on. And you realize that that's fun for the fans. So, I like the strategy on the one hand, but now having lived through this now, I've enjoyed the DH actually quite a bit.
There's no doubt in your mind, or in my mind, that when you signed Ozuna, that you knew he had the potential to be what the Braves needed, and on the offensive side of the ball for sure, and hitting home runs and being what the Braves needed. But did you have any idea that he could have been as good as he has been this year? I mean, he's been phenomenal. He's been off the charts. I certainly never expected that.
Yeah, and look, normally I would say absolutely not, and it's not to sound arrogant. Like when we signed Anibal Sanchez, and he had a great year, we never would have thought that in a million years. And we had some things break right, and we had some good luck. If you had told me I would have predicted or thought Adam Duvall was going to do what he did in 2020, I would have said no. We thought he was capable of this when we acquired him in 2018, and then when it didn't work out for him, he had the option of Gwinnett. And you don't know if he's going to get back to that level where he's a back-to-back 30-home-run season. In the case of Marcell Ozuna, I can tell you, I think I said it at the time that we signed him. I think I did talk about his last year with Miami, that we thought he would get back to that. He had a good chance to get back to that. Our internal information on him, we felt like he was every bit as good from an offensive standpoint as what Donaldson gave us last year. So we felt like offensively we were going to replace that bat. We felt good about it. From our standpoint, contractually, for us to give up a draft pick and pay $18 million on a one-year deal, that was a big bite at the apple for us. And, we went, the draft pick was a real thing for us, but we felt that strongly about the player, about the bat, and how good the fit was. So, look, he's had a great year, but we expected, for what we paid and what we gave up and so on, and all of our work internally, even the year he had last year, we felt there was a very, very good chance that we were going to get 2017 Miami Marcell Ozuna, and he's really been every bit of that beyond the fact that he's fit in really well.
Alex, I want to ask you about this matchup that we're going to see in Game 1, and particularly your bats versus Trevor Bauer. And this guy's been really good all year, probably going to win the Cy Young this season. But I don't see anything that he has that this lineup has not seen and had success against. I've seen them take on DeGrom and Scherzer and Cole and some of the best in the business and really grind out at bats. Do you feel like your lineup is the perfect lineup to combat someone of that caliber?
Look, I think you respect everybody who's out there, every elite starter, Cy Young candidate, and so on. We faced a ton of those guys, obviously, in the NL East the last few years. When I was in Toronto, our CEO at the time, there'd be times that we'd be going up against a stud starter and so on, and I'd be like, oh, we got so-and-so tonight. And he'd always turn to me and he'd say, is he undefeated? And I'd say no, and he basically would say, exactly. So, one thing we've done well, but again, these guys are great. They're great rotation. Just like you said, he's highly probable to win the Cy Young. But look, I would have thought that the Braves would have been the team that gave Aaron Nola the shortest start of his career. And Aaron Nola's perennial Cy Young candidate as well, but he had a rough start against us here in Atlanta. So anything can happen, short series. We've been shut down by starters that haven't had as much time in the league and as much success, and we on the other side of it, we've hit some guys that are elite starters. So I don't know that anyone's a great that we line up specifically with any one guy. I mean, guys need to make mistakes. Our guys need to be on. But there's no doubt the depth of the lineup that we have, the fact that we're not going to have to rely on one guy, the top to bottom, 1 through 9, we feel like any one of those guys can get hot. We definitely feel good about it.
Alex, I asked Freddie Freeman a little bit earlier about the scouting differences this year. I'm assuming a lot of it's off video and TV. Coming from an organizational point of view that you came from and knowing those guys and working in that world, what's going to be different about not facing a team? And I do agree with Freddie. If you faced a pitcher, you have an idea of what he does and what he's tried to do in the past. But hitters get hot. Hitters get streaky. Hitters all of a sudden have holes. You're asking scouts and you're asking, put together a report that says this is what we see, but we didn't really see it with our own eyes. Kind of makes it a little bit different now, especially when you haven't faced a team like this year.
No, you're right, and I could tell you just, when we were preparing for the Cardinals last year, and I was looking at our internal data and information on Ozuna, that's when he jumped off the page. He hit 240, had an 800 OPS, and then as I started to look into all our information on him, I was like, wow, this guy, the ball didn't fall for him, but this guy had a monster year for the Cardinals in 2019. It's just the stat line didn't reflect it. But there were a lot of underlying characteristics that said this guy could explode at any time, and he's one of the elite bats. And we were worried about him. Now, he still had a great series against us. We shut down, I think, basically the entire St. Louis club other than Goldschmidt and Ozuna had great series. But the fact that we haven't played the Reds, certainly, I think our advanced team and our prep, our R&D team, I think they do a great job. They pour through so many things. To give us any little edge, any little outs that we might be able to make here and there, small advantages. You're looking for anything that you can get. So, from that standpoint, you still have film on all these guys. Players have their own routines. So, I think you lose some of the things where if a guy's going to tip a pitch and things like that, those things are harder to get.
Right.
But for the most part, I think it's a similar process to what we ran in the past.
It's really interesting knowing that you're going to face a team that you've never seen this season. And like Chris was talking about, when it comes to your scouting and trying to evaluate a team and find out what's best for you, have you found that to be more of a tedious or challenging process, getting ready for a team you've never seen?
No, I think it's the same thing. I think it's just, you have to be careful. If there's so much information, you can thin slice this stuff so much. And that's what you have to be careful. What are the really key things? Pretty much you're presented with stacks and stacks of information, and of that, what do you actually want to send down to the clubhouse and send down to the coaches and send down to the players, because they can't take all this information, retain all this information. Things change. You have to adjust. You might think guy's susceptible to curveballs and sliders, but the guy on the mound that day doesn't have his curveball, doesn't have his slider, it won't matter, right? So the same way, guys make mistakes and so on. Guys might change their game plan. So I think there's just we talk more about themes, what type of club we're going to face, what they like to do, what are some common themes that they've done. And then in terms of how to attack guys and so on and how we think they're going to attack us, we go through some of those things. So, but, we don't look at the end of the day, even if guys are trying to do things, you'll see a guy set up inside, outside, and the guy will miss his spot and so on. To be able to execute and do things is obviously, changes things as well. So I think you just have to be very selective of what are the key things you want to really hone in on. And at the end of the day, you got to go let the players play.
All right, Alex, real quick, got about a minute. Travis d'Arnaud, we saw the offensive numbers. He could be the Silver Slugger winner in the National League this year. But just talk about how comfortable you feel with him behind the plate when you're going to have two young guys going out if it does turn into a 3-game series. That part of his game, that was a really good signing for you guys. But I think we maybe focused a little bit too much on the offense. Just tell us something real quick about why he's the right guy to be behind the plate this series.
Look, he's been in the World Series with the Mets. Obviously was a cleanup hitter for the Rays last year in the playoffs, but obviously has a lot of playoff experience for still a young guy. Has a lot of playoff experience, done a really nice job for us. In terms of defensive improvement, the framing, the receiving is really taken a big jump. That was our game plan when we got him. We told him we would improve that part of his game. We felt pretty good about it. So just like you said, the offense has gotten a lot of the acclaim, rightfully so. But defensively as well, we really like the game calling. We like the way he receives as well and is able to present the ball.
Braves GM Alex Anthopoulos joining us here on the Braves Playoff Preview Show here on the Braves Radio Network. We appreciate your time, sir.
All right, guys, really enjoyed it.
Enjoy the week, Alex.
I love the fact that he's not shy about answering questions, and you know, a lot of times you hear coaches and GMs they'll give you a coach speak. And I don't feel like he does that. Or if he does, he disguises it really well.
Oh, one thing I've said about Alex ever since day one, he's always been very transparent with us. I mean, for what it is that we do, from our perspective, he's definitely good for business. And I feel like we can ask him anything, and whether it's on or off the record, he's going to give us a pretty truthful answer.
Real quick, nothing's leaked out of that building since he's gotten here. I always say the guy at the top must have set the rules down. Nothing has gotten out. The other thing is, and I agree with you, when you text him, you have a question before you want to say something, you're thinking about something. He gets back to you and he gives you a little bit more than you normally would get.
Right.
When I speak to other guys who are in this business, they don't have a relationship with the general manager now trust you, because if you burn him once, it's over.
Yeah, it's over.
And he's told us, by the way, one guy burns him, you're all out of these types of conversations. But I really appreciate the idea that if you don't understand something, he will then say, here's how we looked at it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with him at that point, but he will say, this is what we were thinking when we did this.
This is the Braves playoff preview show here on the Braves Radio Network on the Fans YouTube channel. Of course, the flagship for Braves baseball here in Atlanta. And I want to let you know that when we get done, about 8:55, we'll invite Chipper Jones. He will actually stay with us on the Fans YouTube channel, and as well as on the flagship for Braves Radio 680 The Fan here in Atlanta. So you could get the app and listen to it that way if you are out of market. So that is coming up about 8:55. When we come back, we will speak with Jim Powell from the Braves Radio Network. We are live at Sports and Social, live at the Battery, right next to Truist Park here on the Braves Radio Network.
Hi, everybody. Joe Simpson here. And when I ask people to name their favorite dish made with Georgia pecans, they frequently offer up the classic pecan pie. And while I love a big piece of pie, there's so much more you can do with Georgia pecans. Like snacking, for example. Did you know that Georgia pecans have the highest antioxidant levels of any nut? And they're packed with fiber and healthy fats, too. So next time you're looking for delicious and a healthy snack, grab a bag of pecans. And remember, make sure they're Georgia grown.
Episode 2 of UGA 40 is available now. The Fans' new podcast with quarterback Buck Bellew. Academy Sports and Outdoors presents this look back at the 1980 season. Sponsored by Superior Plumbing and Southern Link Wireless. Relive the Dogs' first big homestand of the 1980 season, including a wild ride against Clemson and the heroics of Scott Werner. Download Episode 2 of UGA 40 now at thepodcastpark.com or wherever you get your favorite fan podcasts. The Braves are division champs for the third straight season as the Braves charge into the 2020 playoffs. Count on the Fan to bring you all the latest news, the biggest names in baseball, and every pitch of the Braves postseason. Stream Braves postseason baseball for free on the Fan app. Download it now for Apple or Android. This is where the NL East champs play. The Fan. The Fan kicking off your NFL Sunday with the biggest pregame show in the South. Nick Cellini and Chris Dimino are back with Atlanta's official NFL pregame show, presented by Corona Extra. They're live starting at 10 a.m. this Sunday, walking you up to the 1 p.m. kickoff with the latest breaking news and the biggest names in football. It's live this Sunday, presented by Corona Extra, live on The Fan and streaming live on the Fan app.
Georgia license 24109.
A third straight division title? Check. A team loaded with MVP candidates? Check. A deep playoff run in 2020 is up next.
3-1 smoke, deep right center field. This one rising towards the wall, and a home run for Freddie Freeman.
This is the 2020 postseason preview on the Braves Radio Network.
Looking at Truist Park, the right field gate, live at Sports and Social, live at the Battery here at in just a gorgeous night in Atlanta, man. I don't think it could be more perfect than it is right now. I mean, this is like, it's starting to feel like baseball weather a little bit, at least postseason weather.
I was looking at the forecast for the week, and I mean, everything I see just screams postseason baseball.
Yeah.
Cannot wait.
The wind kicking up a little bit, and it's not 90 degrees like it was last year. I love it. Tug Cowart, along with Chris Domino and Ben Ingram, we're going to invite Jim Powell to join us and be a part of the discussion here on the Braves playoff preview show on the Braves Radio Network. Jim, thanks so much for taking the time.
Hey, my pleasure.
Yes, sir. So what is it that you think the Braves are going to have to do to get past the first round of the playoffs for the first time in about 19 years? What is it in your view that they got to do very, very well?
Well, they need to pitch well. Luckily, Cincinnati looked a bit more susceptible to left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. And the Braves have, of course, Max Fried is going to get a start. And then there's plenty of lefties coming out of that bullpen all game long. So I think the Braves match up well with the Reds. The Reds are sort of the trendy pick by a lot of people. I saw there was 30 ESPN experts who voted on each of the playoff series in the first round and who they thought would win it. And the higher seed was heavily favored by the experts in every case except the Reds and the Braves. 16 picked the Reds and 14 picked the Braves. So a lot of people are looking at the Reds. They've got 3 strong starting pitchers. They won 11 of their last 15 games to forge their way into the playoffs. And we all know that hot teams tend to do well in the playoffs. So, it should be a very competitive series. It may go all 3 games, but I still like the Braves' chances to find a way to win.
Jim, something you and I were discussing here recently, and I know we have many times this year, just our confidence in this lineup versus whomever the pitcher is. I was just asking Alex about that, and he was talking about how they've had a lot of success grinding out at bats. And I know that you and I both feel like that's one of the top elements that this team has in a postseason series.
Yeah, hopefully they can wear down those starters and get them out. Trevor Bauer actually complained about the Braves lineup last year with Cleveland because they fouled off so many pitches. They had so many long counts. They got his pitch count up, and they ultimately came back and won that game. I have a lot of confidence in the lineup, no question about it. I think it's the best in the National League. The Dodgers may argue a bit on that one. But, the Reds do have 3 strong starting pitchers. Ben, you pointed out that the last time that the Braves and the Reds met in the postseason was 95, where the Braves had the great run and won the World Series. It was also in 95 where the Braves had back-to-back series where it was a classic matchup of good pitching against good hitting. Which side wins out? Well, we all know the good pitching won out in 95 for the Braves, and I think the Reds are hoping to reverse that trend this go-around.
I know the runs scored has been a big topic of conversation, certainly with the home runs with the Braves, but I think a better indication of what a team is close and late, 7th, 8th, 9th inning. What do you do in close and late situations? And the Atlanta Braves, if I'm looking for one trend to hopefully hold up, it's the trend that this bullpen was built and done, and they've done the job that they've done this year. But closing out games has been unbelievable for this team, and the ability to come back, we've seen that now for a couple of years. 7th, 8th, 9th inning, this team in this building here has been phenomenally good.
And even without fans, the Braves forged a really good home record. You're exactly right about late in games. I feel like the Braves at times, they just sort of hang around and try and wear down the other starter and figure they'll find a way to win in the last 3 innings. And it seems almost incredible how many times that formula worked for the Braves this year. So, the Reds bullpen is not as strong as their starters. So I do feel one of the keys to the game is going to be get into that bullpen as early as possible.
Jim, looking back on the last 2 years, I know that what the Braves did in 19 and 18 really has nothing to do with the Reds. However, you got a lot of postseason experience already for this Braves ball club, while the Reds don't have much at all. It's been a while since they've been to the postseason. How much stock do you put into what the Braves gathered over the last 2 seasons, having that success in the postseason and just being there and learning?
I think it's huge. I really do. And I think that's one of the big reasons why the Braves failed to close out a playoff series the last couple of years. They just didn't have the experience to handle everything that goes along with playoff baseball. But they are ready to go this time. They've got a lot of veterans on the team. They've got even their young guys have been in the playoffs. They know what it's all about. They all have that bitter taste in their mouths. I'm sure everybody is still bitter about the Cardinal series from last year. So this is a chance for them to sort of show everybody just who the Atlanta Braves are. I know they're really proud. They play like a proud team. They love their manager. They do have home field advantage, even without fans in the stands. It's something about Truist Park that I think gives the Braves that good feeling late in games. They find a way to win. It's always very helpful if you know exactly how many runs you need in the ninth inning, because the Braves seem to be able to produce whatever that number is. They'll just go get it. So I do think those are significant advantages in the Braves' favor, the home field and the playoff experience.
Jim Powell, we appreciate your time tonight.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys. Playoff baseball. Gotta love it.
Nothing better. You're exactly right. When we come back here on the Braves Playoff Preview Show on the Braves Radio Network, and as well as the flagship 680 The Fans YouTube channel, if you want to see all the video, you can see it there. Coming up, we'll speak with the manager of the Braves that Jim just talked about, the one that this team rallies around and loves more than anything else. We'll talk to him next here on the Braves Radio Network.
Hi, everybody. Joe Simpson here. And when I ask people to name their favorite dish made with Georgia pecans, they frequently offer up the classic pecan pie. And while I love a big piece of pie, there's so much more you can do with Georgia pecans. Like snacking, for example. Did you know that Georgia pecans have the highest antioxidant levels of any nut? And they're packed with fiber and healthy fats, too. So next time you're looking for delicious and a healthy snack, grab a bag of pecans. And remember, make sure they're Georgia grown.
Episode 2 of UGA 40 is available now. The Fan's new podcast with quarterback Buck Bellew. Academy Sports and Outdoors presents this look back at the 1980 season. Sponsored by Superior Plumbing and Southern Link Wireless. Relive the Dogs' first big homestand of the 1980 season, including a wild ride against Clemson and the heroics of Scott Werner. Download Episode 2 of UGA 40 now at thepodcastpark.com or wherever you get your favorite fan podcasts. The Braves are division champs for the third straight season as the Braves charge into the 2020 playoffs. Count on the Fan to bring you all the latest news, the biggest names in baseball, and every pitch of the Braves postseason. Stream Braves postseason baseball for free on the Fan app. Download it now for Apple or Android. This is where the NL East champs play. The Fan. The Fan kicking off your NFL Sunday with the biggest pregame show in the South. Nick Cellini and Chris Domino are back with Atlanta's official NFL pregame show, presented by Corona Extra. They're live starting at 10 a.m. this Sunday, walking you up to the 1 p.m. kickoff with the latest breaking news and the biggest names in football. It's live this Sunday, presented by Corona Extra, live on The Fan and streaming live on the Fan app.
078 or online at all.
The Wild Card Series starts Wednesday, and Braves Nation is ready to roll.
1-1, swung on, lifted in the air to center field and deep. On the run, still running at the gate of the bullpen. That ball is gone. Home run, Dansby.
This is the Braves 2020 postseason preview with Tug Coward and Chris Domino on the Atlanta Braves Radio Network.
Tug Coward, Chris Domino, and Ben Ingram. We'll check in with Braves manager Brian Snitker in just a few minutes here from live at Sports and Social, live at the Battery, looking at Truist Park, where Wednesday the Braves will take on the Reds. Ben Ingram, I'm telling you, being able to listen to you all season, be a part of this, and get to this point has been spectacular. And the entire broadcast team, for that matter. But, the thing with the Reds is they're power pitching, and that's what the Braves have always been, power pitching, right? It's so unusual this year to have the Braves be the ones that are the big hitters. It just seems like a slight role reversal, if you will.
Yeah, I think the identity of the Reds for the last several years, and even going back to other really successful times in their franchise's history, has been because of what they had at the plate. When Trevor Bauer wins the National League Cy Young Award, to your point, he'll be the first Red to ever accomplish that. And they've been around for 150 years. They've never had a Cy Young Award winner. So that really backs up your point. They've been an offensive team. Some of the biggest stars they've ever had have been these big sluggers that put up big-time numbers. So it is a little bit of a role reversal, and it's not just Trevor Bauer either. I mean, they've got a full list of guys who can get out there and give you innings. So the point, Chris, that when we were early on in the season, I think a lot of us felt like the Reds were the team to pick in the Central. They are the Cubs, and when they weren't hitting those marks, I think we all at one point or another thought this Reds team is probably the biggest underachiever in the National League. I think we said that along with the Nationals. It was those two teams, A and B. They hit their stride in just enough time to get in. Now all of a sudden they go from being that to maybe the most dangerous team in the National
If you ask Joey Votto.
Right.
Joey Votto,
he'll tell you.
He just let the whole world know. By the way, Brian Snitker is going to join us. I know he's ready for his phone call now. If we have a second, real quick, we'll do it now. We were asking everybody about their little postseason.
Their dude.
Yeah.
Who's your dude? What means postseason to you?
I've got a couple of things. I mean, number one, this is a photo with me and Vin Scully.
Oh, my.
This is before the NLDS, Braves and Dodgers in 2013. So meeting him, that's postseason.
Yeah.
So that's one. That's from the big leagues, obviously. And this is one from the minor leagues. I was a broadcaster for the Double-A team in Mississippi.
That's awesome.
And they had an unbelievable series. It was a best 3 out of 5. All 3 games that they won were by 1 run in extra innings. I mean, it's just the most nerve-wracking baseball you've ever seen. And some really good relationships with that team. And this was from 2008, and I still have this ring, obviously. I never wear it, but I think about that with a lot of fond memories.
Are there guys you're still close to and because of that?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny Venters and Chris Medlin and many other guys on that group.
Yeah, we're going to welcome Braves manager Brian Snitker to the show. Coach, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening.
No, good to hear you guys.
Yes, sir. It's a great night here. We're looking at the ballpark, though it will be no fans inside. What are you doing to get the guys fired up and ready to beat the Reds?
Well, I don't know. We worked out a little bit today. We're going to do the same tomorrow. I don't know that I got to get them fired up. I mean, they're going to be plenty ready to go, and it'll be a good series.
Snit, I asked Freddie about this ballpark. You experienced 3 different ballparks, obviously, in your time in and around the Atlanta Braves. How do you like this one 3 years in terms of being fair, being a manager in a ballpark like this? You guys have had so many come from behinds that it seems the ballpark's played to your advantage, but I don't know if it's the park or the guys themselves. What do you think of Truist Park and how it does play now that you've got 3 years in it?
I mean, I think it's a great ballpark. I love, obviously our guys like playing here. It's a great place to come to work. They did a great job here. I was a little bit worried that first year. That ball was flying all over the place, and then for whatever reason, it kind of evened out. It's a legit ballpark. I mean, you can hit a home run the other way. It's not a bandbox like Philly, Cincinnati. Some of these places are, and I love it. I mean, like I said, it's for the ball players and all of us coming to work here every day is about as good as it gets.
Snit, been here, and speaking of your ballpark, I know there's no fans, but how much of an advantage is it to have 2 games and a third, if necessary, at your ballpark in a place where you're used to coming every single day and having your routine?
No, I think it's good. I think it's a huge advantage. I'd much rather be doing this, even though, you know what, we're in the lockdown, but we're still just walking right across the street here to go to work. And that's huge when you're not on the road. Even though we're staying in a hotel, it's still, you know, I think it's still really good for us. So we're not bussing in here every day. And it's a ballpark where I'm going to tell you what, these guys feel good about this place. They got a lot of confidence here, like you say, with all the comeback victories, everything that goes on here. They got a really good feeling about this place.
Coach, I want to ask you about Marcell Ozuna, just because he's been so incredible and a great addition to this team. And I asked you in the beginning, what do you got to do to get the guys fired up? You're right. You don't have to do anything. They're ready to play ball, no doubt. But I've seen Marcell Ozuna be the biggest cheerleader for this team in the dugout. He's the first person out of the dugout on a win. He's a guy that cheers on his teammates. I mean, it's almost like a high school football vibe.
Yeah. I don't know that anybody loves playing baseball and winning and being a part of this whole thing than Marcell. He's been such a great influence on all of us, coaches, players, myself. I don't know. He has been such a positive influence on us with the energy that he brings, how he approaches the game, how he loves to compete. I can't say enough about this guy. He's been about as good an addition, I think, as the Atlanta Braves have had, you know, and as long as I can remember. And what he's done for our club, our, individuals, the holes that he filled, you couldn't ask for anything more than what this guy's brought us.
Hey, Snit, it's different in the clubhouse this year, but everybody's talked about what Marcell Ozuna is, what he does for a team. Look, you've been around a long time. It's not just about the numbers. The fewer turds you actually have in and around your organization, the better off you're going to be. I got a feeling there was an emotional moment last year or two that you had, one of them with Ronald Acuna that everybody knows about. But I think the idea that you can like each other, it doesn't guarantee you're going to win a game once they say play ball. But can you explain what it's like to be around a group that actually does have each other's back, especially this year when everybody had to sit down and look each other in the eye and say, I'm going to be responsible for you, you be responsible for me, and it worked in this organization this year. I'm not so sure a lot of teams went to bed at night knowing it was going to be that way for them.
No, you're right. I mean, it was different. I mean, we talked about it a lot throughout the whole time. I mean, I applaud our players for everything that they've done to make this thing happen. And Alex set the tone from the get-go. I mean, it was over the board. We have to be accountable. We have to be responsible for each other. We did we crossed every T, dotted every I, to the extreme. And I was talking about that with somebody today. A lot of teams were doing things that we weren't allowed to do. And it showed, because we thought that, you know, we're going to have to survive this. We're going to have to not be besieged by all these things that are going on. And our players did an unbelievable job. Like I said, I think it starts with Alex and the vibe that he sent from the get-go, and how our medical staff, our training staff, everybody just kind of held everybody accountable, and the players did too. And I think the biggest thing was when Freddie Freeman got this, you know, and Will Smith, they got the virus, and it made it real, and those guys spoke. And now it's we're here, and we survived this thing. Guys are all the better for it. And we're ready to go. So who knows what's going to happen? But I can say again, I applaud our players for the diligence and the dedication that they had to make this thing happen.
Snit, before the ball game yesterday, I asked you, once you found out who your opponent was and you finished that ball game yesterday with Boston, when preparations for the upcoming series started, and you said immediately, and I know you said you guys had a workout today. What has today looked like when it comes to turning your attention to the Reds and getting this ball club where they need to be?
Well, yeah, we did. We worked out today. I wanted to have a workout today just to give the guys an outlet so they didn't have to sit in the hotel. They needed, I didn't want them, going brain dead and just letting their bodies shut down in the hotel. So we worked out. The whole club was there. Everybody showed up. We had a normal workout. I think it was good for them to get out of the hotel to go work out and bang the ball around, and they threw and everything. And then from then on, I mean, it was a total day of digging into the Reds. We haven't played them. We haven't seen them. Don't know who they are this year. We had meetings this evening and got a really good handle on what was going on. We'll do it again tomorrow. We got another workout. We'll do some more advancing with the players tomorrow, and get probably and prepare as good as we can to play the next series.
So you have a Braves fan audience right now. Can you explain to them why you feel good about two guys that combined don't have 20 starts in their major league career, let alone a postseason moment? You're going to put two young guys out there. You just said it. You don't know what's going to happen. But let Braves fans know why you're going to look in their eye that night. And you don't believe, because we've talked about it, you don't think they're going to be overmatched by the moment. Can you explain a little bit of that?
Yeah, no, it is. And you know what? We've been through a lot with both of these guys, all three of them. Max is kind of... Max has been through this. He started out his career in the bullpen in the playoffs and, went from that to being last year being a Cy Young contender. And now we got two young guys in Ian Anderson and Kyle Wright that, Ian came, made his debut, has shown us that, I don't know, that you start out your career facing the Yankees and the Red Sox, that's pretty good. That's two tough draws, and the kid didn't disappoint. I mean, just the way he's went about it, how he's handling himself. Kyle Wright's been through a lot, in his brief major league career or professional career, really. And he's come a long way this year. He's starting to believe. He's seeing results of the hard work and everything. We know how these guys, what they have. They're well stocked with ammunition. They're growing up right in front of us. What a great opportunity it is for both those guys to, number one, experience a pennant race, and number two, experience playoffs. And it's just going to be so good for them going forward.
Snit, the night that Max Fried hurt his ankle, I don't know if you saw it, if you were looking at it, or if you were a different place in the dugout. Freddie Freeman went over to him, and I know that he was lobbying to stay in the game. We had Freddie on a little bit earlier. I just thought that was such a good moment. I don't know if you were able to catch it, but he seemed to do more listening than talking. And then as soon as Freddie was done with him, he got up and went where he was supposed to be, out of that dugout to go get ready to make his next start to try to get as healthy as possible quickly.
Yeah, and that, that's Freddie. I mean, he's got a pulse on and an eye and a pulse on everything, and that's what makes him the leader that he is. I mean, that's why Freddie Freeman's Freddie Freeman. He's an elite player in the game. He's obviously our go-to guy here on this club. He's my go-to guy on this club. I mean, that's just, that's what sets Freddie apart. And, he cares about everything going on. He loves this organization. He wants everything about, everything he does is for this organization. And I'm so fortunate to have a guy like that on our club. And, it's just because he cares so much about everybody.
Yeah, final thought here is that I think everybody's in agreement that he should be the MVP. But when we had him on, the first thing he said was, you know what, that one's not as important to me. It's the World Series MVP. That's the one that's important because that means we won it all.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, it wouldn't bother me one bit if he had co-MVPs this year because the two guys on our club are both deserving, certainly deserving of that honor. And it's happened before. I kind of hope it happens again because both of those guys that we're talking about, I look at the numbers and I look where they're at in the league, and it's just crazy what these guys have accomplished.
Brian Snitker, manager of the Atlanta Braves, joining us here on the Braves Playoff Preview Show. Coach, thanks so much. Go hit them hard.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Man, there's nobody better than that guy right there. I mean, I can't think of a person that I would rather have anywhere, any name you can throw at me leading this team other than Brian Snitker.
Kind of like what we were saying with Alex a little while ago. I mean, for the business that we're in, for what we get to do, very transparent, on the record, off the record, here's what I think. And I love that about Snit because you don't get that in every manager.
No, one of the great things is these guys have to do something every day. I almost think it's unfair. Managers every day, it just seems ridiculous. So, but whatever, that's the rule. It changed this year. But the time you get a chance when the official microphones go down and you just have a conversation with a guy, and it could be about college football, it could be about anything. Those are the things that I think I missed. I'm sure you did as well. More than anything else was those moments in the dugouts where you just go, hey, I don't know what the conversation's going to be, but it's a beautiful day. We're at the ballpark. Let's find out where it goes today.
Yeah, it's a good point because it's not just the game that we missed. It was the everyday relationships.
No,
this is work. But it's still, when it comes to baseball season, I'm around these guys in here more than I'm around my family.
Yeah.
So they are your family for that time of year. So, yeah, you did miss those relationships.
Yeah, it's a great point, and you're right, man. Those conversations are priceless. You remember that stuff the rest of your life. You know, the conversations you have down on the field. It's fantastic for sure. We're at Sports and Social at Live at the Battery, looking at the right field gate, Truist Park, and we'll come back, wrap up the show. This is the Braves preview show on the Braves Radio Network, and as well as on 680 The Fan's YouTube channel, the flagship for Braves Radio here in Atlanta.
Hi, everybody. Joe Simpson here. And when I ask people to name their favorite dish made with Georgia pecans, they frequently offer up the classic pecan pie. And while I love a big piece of pie, there's so much more you can do with Georgia pecans. Like snacking, for example. Did you know that Georgia pecans have the highest antioxidant levels of any nut? And they're packed with fiber and healthy fats, too. So next time you're looking for delicious and a healthy snack, grab a bag of pecans. And remember, make sure they're Georgia grown.
Episode 2 of UGA 40 is available now. The Fan's new podcast with quarterback Buck Bellew. Academy Sports and Outdoors presents this look back at the 1980 season. Sponsored by Superior Plumbing and Southern Link Wireless. Relive the Dogs' first big homestand of the 1980 season, including a wild ride against Clemson and the heroics of Scott Werner. Download Episode 2 of UGA 40 now at thepodcastpark.com or wherever you get your favorite fan podcasts. The Braves are division champs for the third straight season as the Braves charge into the 2020 playoffs. Count on the Fan to bring you all the latest news, the biggest names in baseball, and every pitch of the Braves postseason. Stream Braves postseason baseball for free on the Fan app. Download it now for Apple or Android. This is where the NL East champs play. The Fan. The Fan kicking off your NFL Sunday with the biggest pregame show in the South. Nick Cellini and Chris Domino are back with Atlanta's official NFL pregame show, presented by Corona Extra. They're live starting at 10 a.m. this Sunday, walking you up to the 1 p.m. kickoff with the latest breaking news and the biggest names in football. It's live this Sunday, presented by Corona Extra, live on The Fan and streaming live on the Fan app.
To know your banker.
Center field. This one might leave again. Marcell Ozuna just rocked one over the left center field wall.
This is the 2020 postseason preview on the Braves Radio Network.
We'll jump in quickly and go through everybody's pick. Joe picked Duval. McAlpin picked Albies. Domino, you picked Darno. I picked Ozuna. Ben Ingram, who is your dude? Who's your guy that's going to be the hero for the Braves in this series?
I like Dansby.
Okay.
We're going all over the board. It's official. It's like bingo.
Well, exactly. Under the in 17. No. Here's why. Every time this guy comes to the plate late in the ball game, he's in the mix of something, whether he's scoring the tying run or driving in the winning run or getting on base to start a rally. He's always in the mix late in games. So heroes typically don't come around in the second, fourth, fifth innings. It's because of moments that happen late in games. So I'm going to go with the guy who's been big late in games for the Braves and Swanson.
You know, it's crazy. Chipper Jones is going to join us, and he's another, obviously, the most famous 1-1 around here. And Dansby Swanson, I think one of the things that Dansby's done, and I don't want to pop chair psychology this thing, this is not Psych 101, but I think he's more comfortable with himself. I think that thing of being 1-1 it's just a lot to hang over you. You get traded, you realize, well, you don't like me, you just drafted me first overall, and so you learn it's a business. I think he realized he's not a 35 home run guy, but he's comfortable in his skin. He figured out what he was supposed to do. He figured out what not to do. He's a better defensive player. Inside half was always good. Now he's strong enough, man enough to push it the other way, and will go the other way. He'll spin on pitches. He's not going to be the prototypical numbers guy.
Right.
But I'm telling you this, in terms of value to this team, everything you just mentioned, what we've seen firsthand, this guy's become a bigger asset than I think we thought he was going to be a couple of years ago when we weren't really sure.
I'm going to use your terminology. So he's not a numbers guy all the time, but he's a moment guy.
Yeah.
And how often do we say you got to go win a moment? And I feel like he does that so often. He did it last year against the Cardinals in that comeback in the ninth inning. I mean, he's the one that collects the double.
That's right.
And has that moment. So he's done it before. So lots of big numbers guys on this team. And Dansby can be one of those guys. I mean, if you extrapolate what he's done to this point over 162 games, he's got 27 home runs.
Yeah.
That's a big number. But to me, the moment is something that he seems to capture and thrive in, and I think he does that this series.
Who's the Reds guy? I'm going to ask you, who do you think, and you and I agreed, I already asked you during the break, who do you think the guy to be most worried about is on them?
Well, the guy that seems to sting the Braves every time is Eugenio Suarez.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they play them, it seems like he comes up with some kind of big home run or whatever. But Nick Castellanos, to me, is the most dangerous guy. And you can say what you want about Votto and others, but he's the one who scares me more than anybody.
There you go. I hope you'll stick around. Thank you so much for joining us on the Braves playoff preview show here on the Braves Radio Network. We want you to stick around because if you join us on the flagship for Braves Radio, 680 The Fan, on the YouTube channel, you'll be able to hear from Chipper Jones. And you can also stream us at 680thefan.com. Hear it that way. Get the 680 The Fan app, powered by T-Mobile, and listen that way. There's a dozen ways to listen, even though we're signing off of network coverage. We will continue on YouTube and here locally on The Fan with Braves legend and Hall of Famer Chipper Jones. So stick around for that. For Chris Domino and Ben Ingram. Appreciate everybody joining us, and it's been a terrific night. Thanks for all the support from the folks at Sports and Social here at Live at the Battery, just outside Truist Park, the site for Braves postseason play starting Wednesday versus the Cincinnati Reds. This is the Braves Radio Network.
Jeff Frank.
To center field and deep on the run, still running at the gate of the bullpen. That ball is gone. Home run, Dansby.
This is the Braves 2020 postseason preview with Tug Coward and Chris Domino on the Atlanta Braves Radio Network.
Thanks for hanging with us locally here on the Fan, 680 93.7 FM at Sports and Social here at Live at the Battery at Truist Park. I almost messed that up. But we want to invite Chipper Jones, Braves legend, Chipper Jones, Hall of Famer, to the show. Chipper, you around? I'm thinking maybe not connected quite yet, but I'm surprised that he would be available, man. Isn't it getting to be hunting season?
Yeah, it's Braves postseason baseball.
Yeah, I know, but it's hunting season for Chipper Jones. He's retired.
He's a working man. Don't forget, the man actually works for a living now, and he's got work to do this week. He's got the Cubs-Marlins series, as a matter of fact. That's going to be game 1 for him coming up.
I enjoyed watching him this year.
Yeah, he's done a good job.
It's easy transition.
It's a good hire. It was a good hire.
Yeah.
And you know why they did it. Look, he's got a name. You're a Hall of Famer. You're that guy. No doubt about it. But he's got an honesty. And I do think it's crazy that he ends up – I think what probably happened, I don't know if it's an audition or not, but the Busciambi thing that he did as a guest, all of a sudden, if anybody at ESPN was watching, and I guess they were, they said, oh, I kind of like that chemistry. You can't fake that. You can't make that up. And lo and behold, who's he end up working with?
Yeah, there you go. It only makes sense. Chipper, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time with us tonight. Well, maybe not. Chipper,
Hello.
you there?
Yep.
All
Good
right,
evening,
buddy.
sir.
Thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
No problem. My pleasure.
Yeah, man. So obviously a huge series for the Braves, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. The script is flipped a little bit. You know, the Reds have been known as hitters. The Braves have always been known as power pitchers, and the roles are different this year. Is it odd for you, knowing, being part of the 90s when the Braves were just incredible power pitchers? Is it odd for you to see the script flip like that?
A little bit. I think one of the keys to the series obviously is going to be, how many outs the Braves can get at the beginning of the game. Normally it's how many outs you can get at the end of the game that kind of separates everything. But, with the amount of injuries and whatnot coming in, to this postseason, it's I think if the Braves play 2 games and get 10 innings out of their starters, if they play 3 games and get 15 innings out of their starters, I think it bodes very well for them. If they get 8 or 9, we could be looking at a problem.
Chipper, I know they're happy to be back again, and anytime you get to the postseason, it's a big deal. But they fell short in 18, fell short in 19. What do you think is going on in the minds of these players? In other words, pressure that they're putting on themselves to get over the hump and actually be a winner and live up to what they think they're capable of?
Well, it doesn't matter. You got to let all that stuff go. You got to treat each game like a blank canvas. You get, as an offensive player, as a position player, you get anywhere from 4 to 10 opportunities during the course of the game to directly affect that game. And you have to be prepared for those instances. Your 4 or 5 at bats, your 3, 4, 5 plays in the field. You've got to be prepared to do those flawlessly in the postseason, because as we well know, mistakes are magnified tremendously come October.
Hey, Chip, the night before you had a really good run in 95. Klesko did, postseason-wise. A couple of young guys who hadn't experienced it before. You guys put up numbers, big-time numbers. They were veteran-type numbers. Do you remember sort of how you slept getting ready? I know the bunting's different. I know it feels a little bit different. You're trying to make it as normal as possible. Did you know you were ready for the postseason? Did you know you had an ability to do that when that light was shining like that?
I think we all knew we were ready because we had been through those situations in the minors. We had been through league championship series in AA, in AAA. Those were our 7th game of the World Series. So even though there were 4,000 or 5,000 people in the stands, it still meant the world to us. And those games kind of prepared us for when we were going to have 40 or 50,000 people in the stands and everybody watching on TV. So, all those things prepared us. Obviously, from a personal standpoint, whenever I got to the big leagues, the last thing I wanted to hear was, well, Terry Pendleton would have made that play, or Terry Pendleton would have gotten that base hit, So that fueled me. But in 95, my first year, we just had the perfect mix. We had, the big 3 in their peak. We had some great mentor veteran players in Justice and McGriff and Grissom and Lemke and Blauser and all those guys. But then we had guys coming up through the minors that were ready for that moment. And we weren't going to be denied there in '95. So, yeah, it was an awesome run, and I really hope that guys like Freddie, has been here for 10 years, and some of the other guys get a chance to experience that before they're done.
Chipper, speaking of preparation, how much of an added challenge is it to face a team that you've not faced at all this season?
It's big. Obviously, you would have 10 games to go back on if you were playing the Marlins in the first round. And the Marlins are no joke. I've got the Cubs and Marlins in the first round, broadcasting the ESPN games. And I fully expect them to give the Cubs, a handful in the first round. So it's especially difficult. I think everybody who, has an opinion and has looked at these first round games objectively knows that Cincinnati is they probably underperformed during the regular season record-wise, but I think everybody knows how dangerous they can be because they have 3 former number ones in their rotation, and how, if they're on that given day, they're gonna be tough to beat. So with the Braves, it's an intriguing matchup. You got, obviously, the Braves are a juggernaut on offense. But as we baseball players say, once the postseason comes, power pitching and defense usually wins in the postseason. Let's hope that the Braves bats can overcome Bauer, Castillo, and Sonny Gray.
You said it. You were the young guy in '95 when the Braves won the World Series. Now it's Fried and Anderson and Wright. What would you say to Max Fried before his start to prepare him for that moment?
Game's not played any different. You got to go 9 innings. You get 3 outs, 4 balls, 3 strikes. It's not played any differently. Don't treat it any differently. Go about your routine the same as you always do. Be as thorough with your game plan and with your catcher as you always have, and just go out there and execute your pitches. You have to. The biggest part of championship ball clubs is trust. Okay, you have to trust that your offense is going to go out there and score some runs against Trevor Bauer. You have to trust that your defense, when they put the ball in play against you, is going to go out and make the play, and they in turn trust that you are going to execute your pitches, execute your game plan, and to the best of your ability. And if everybody does that correctly, the Braves come home with a W.
That sounds like the speech that Gene Hackman as Norman Dale gave in the movie Hoosiers. Do you guys remember that? When he measured the hoop, it's still 10 feet. It's the same speech.
Yep, 100%. And don't. It's not rocket science, guys. Don't make it any more difficult. The game will speed up a little bit because of the fact that everything's been ratcheted up because it's the playoffs. So, but I think the team that can slow the game down the most during the post, that's what made the Yankees so good back in the late 90s and 2000s. They were able to slow the game down so well, and the team that does that this year will come out on top.
Yeah, Chip, I think a lot of people think that between innings, some pitchers want to be talked to, other guys want to be left alone. You do try to figure that out. We don't really know about these guys. I know Ian Anderson can't get the smile off his face, so maybe that's a good sign. But I think there's moments on the field, and I'm sure as your career went along and you saw different guys on the mound, you can tell when that guy, even if you didn't go all the way over, if you said something to him, and again, it's not stuff the mics pick up on, and it's not just, it's not a showboat moment. I think Freddie might have to be responsible, especially, Max Fried's not an old guy by any stretch, 50 starts in his career. How much of that stuff, if there's a tell, if there's a moment to get a guy to slow it down, if there's a moment to get a guy to snap in or out of something, where you can do it on the field like that, it's not the catcher necessarily coming out or a pitching coach coming out to talk to him.
I think you can sense that pretty quickly. You get that deer in the headlights kind of, look in your eye. And I think we as veterans, I'm sure I probably had it when I was a rookie, my second year, in some of the big games where, a David Justice or Fred McGriff or somebody would pull me aside and say, hey, look, settle down. Everything's going to be okay. You keep going at this rate, you know, you're not going to be very successful. So I think as a veteran, you have to look at the guys who are going to have, you know, the biggest influence on the game, that being a Max Fried, you know, an Ian Anderson and a Kyle Wright. I mean, all those guys, I'd be looking to come into the clubhouse, and I want to see the look in their eyes. Are they focused, you know, or are their eyes, you know, this big around, and is the moment going to be too big for them? And that's when you pull them aside and say, hey, look, it's not played any differently. Go out, you know, if you're Kyle Wright, hey, go out and prepare the same way you did your last 2 or 3 starts, and go out and execute the same way you did your last 2 or 3 starts. And let us take care of the offense. You don't have to worry about that. Let us take care of the offense. Trust us that we're going to do our job. You do yours, and everything's going to be good at the end of the day.
Chip, you were mentioning earlier about looking at this series objectively and the strengths of both teams. You've obviously seen everybody across Major League Baseball covering games for ESPN. And with the teams that you have seen to this point and the way that you see this bracket in the National League specifically, who do you like, and who do you think is going to be some of the tougher teams to put out and keep out of the World Series?
I think we all called Cincinnati being a sleeping giant at the beginning of the year, a team that could possibly contend there in the Central. So it's no surprise that, you know, I mean, obviously I feel like they've underachieved coming in being the 8th seed or the 7th seed. But again, they come in hot. I think they're 12-3, 12-4 in their last 15, 16 games. So, once again, the Braves draw the short end of the stick with a hot team coming in. But I think at the end of the day, and before the season started, I said that if the Tampa Bay Rays could score some runs this year, I love their pitching staff. They've got 4 good starters. They've got a couple guys down in the bullpen that throw a million. Obviously, we know what a juggernaut the Los Angeles Dodgers are. Them getting Mookie Betts, does that put them over the hump? It remains to be seen if Walker Buehler is, you know, going to be healthy going forward. But at the beginning of the year, I picked the Tampa Bay Rays to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Kind of made me look good. You know, they're both the number 1 seeds in each league, but you know, we'll have to wait and see. I'll tell you what, I've seen the Dodgers 3 or 4 times this year and done games, and they're number 1 in the league in hitting. They're number 1 in the league in pitching. I mean, I don't know what else you have to do. I mean, it's going to be intriguing because everybody, you know, they may be number 1 in hitting and pitching, but they only played 2 divisions, their own and the American League West. So they didn't play, you know, the Braves and the National League East and everything. So it's almost back to the day where, you know, before interleague play, the American League and the National League didn't have 3, 4, 5, 6 games during the course of the year to go back on and reference. You know, now it's going to be 2 teams that haven't played all year, you know, unless 2 teams from the same division of each league, you know, make it to the World Series. So I just think it's an incredibly intriguing sprint, and this is going to be a cool 16-team tournament.
Chip, before you came on, we were talking about Dansby, and I just think he's comfortable in his own skin. I think the idea of where he was drafted, I'm sorry, I don't care how good you are and what your career turns out to be. There's a moment where that can weigh on you. People are waiting for you to be the best example of a 1-1 guy. I just think he knows himself now. I think he plays within himself now. I think there's sort of maybe, dime store psychology. I think the weight of that might have actually affected him for a little bit. I think he's so over that now. I think he just knows what he needs to do day in, day out to be a player that helps the team win. And I think he looks like a different guy over the last year and a half.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for feeling comfortable in your own skin and trying not to be, you know, too much. I was listening to y'all before I came on as y'all finished up on the radio, and I agree 100% with everything that Big Ben said over there as far as, you know, they're the Braves guy that it, kind of is flying under the radar that might get the big hit to move them on to the next round. I think you look at the numbers that Dansby has put up in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings all year. He's been one of the best, and I think he is battle-tested and groomed and ready for that situation. On the other side, probably one of the best players in the game that nobody knows about is a Eugenio Suarez. He's a very, very good player, and it wouldn't surprise me if he got a big knock or two. But to answer your question, yes, I mean, for Dansby to have made the strides that he's made defensively, we were talking about him a couple of years ago as being a liability on defense. We don't have that problem anymore. That one's in the rearview mirror. And for him, working with him a few times in spring training, having lunch with him over the off season and just talking the mental game and getting him prepared for each and every at bat, it's really fun to see him, experience that success, because he's not only a guy who hits you 275, 280, but he can lead from foul pole to foul pole now. And that's just a huge asset to have when you're as good defensively as you are at the shortstop position.
Chipper, I think people probably wonder how much you are involved with the team. How much conversation do you have with the different players, whether it be Dansby or Freddie Freeman? And I know you and Freddie are friends, so you probably talk to him more than anyone else. But how much are you involved with that in the clubhouse when you're around? I mean, do you still spend a lot of time with the team? I know you're working too, so that probably takes away a little bit.
Yeah, a lot more a year ago than I was this year. But obviously still friends with a lot of those guys, still text with them, here and there. If I got a chance to work with Adam Duvall the last couple springs and Dansby the last couple springs and Ozzie, the last couple years, obviously, Freddie and I are great friends. So it's just a text message really here or there. I just want them to know, hey, look, you're doing great. Keep it up. I'm proud of you. If I see something, wrong that I may be able to break down off the TV screen, I'll let them know. My allegiance to this organization and those guys will never change. Now, I have to take a little more of a neutral stance because of my position with ESPN, which is probably why they're not letting me do the Braves game on Wednesday.
Right.
And I'm doing the Marlins and Cubs. But, everybody knows when I walk in the room, I got a big capital A on my forehead.
Chipper, I was thinking about Freddie Freeman and pursuing the MVP this year. I think we all feel like he's locked that thing up. We hope that that's the case. When you won the MVP, at what point of the season did it become real to where you thought, yeah, I'm focusing on winning. I want the team to win. I'm going to say all the right things, but I want this thing. Did you get competitive about that?
Not really. Never really thought about it. Obviously heard, saw some of the headlines and heard the chants from the fans, but that's out of my control. I have zero control over that other than the numbers that I put up on a daily basis. There in September when the Mets came to town for the first time, and a lot of people will tell you I cemented that MVP. We had a 1-game lead. This game isn't about individual accolades. This is about going out and being the last team standing in October. And that was always the goal. And I think when you concentrate and immerse yourself on the team's goals and going out and being 1/9 of the equation to help your ball club win that particular night, the numbers are going to take care of themselves. I mean, you really don't have to worry about that. If you go out and try and produce a run a game and be as tough and out for 4 or 5 at bats and field your position flawlessly, you've done your job. And I just feel like when you do your job for 162 games, the numbers are going to be there. And at that point, it's up to somebody else whether you're the MVP or not. And I think you saw Freddie really do a great job of just kind of immersing himself in each and every situation. And games that he wasn't even started, he had an impact on. That's what's the crazy thing is because he's been a position player his whole life, and coming off the bench. Trust me, I know as coming off the bench late in my career, it was a tough adjustment for me because I was used to playing in the field and playing every day. And for Freddie to be able to have that kind of impact off the bench like he did, hitting that game winner the other night was pretty awesome to watch.
All right, let's finish up with this. Bauer's obviously got a personality he walks in the door with. When you're a hitter.
Yeah. That's right.
And it was a lot of guys really coming out of the bullpen. I don't know who some of the starters were, but I do want to ask you, when you're facing a guy like that, you want to bear down against everybody, obviously, but there are certain guys, I'm assuming you get a little bit more keyed up, and he seems to be the type of guy that if you've got your own swagger with 4 ABs against him, 3 ABs against him, he's the guy that you want to face. Give me the names of a few guys that sort of had the personality that made you drive to the ballpark and maybe get there a few minutes earlier because you were really looking to the showdown.
Let's see. That's Carlos Zambrano. Hit me, quite a few times during the course of my career, and I didn't get hit that often, but he was kind of a headhunter, kind of a hothead. We always loved sticking it to him. Darren Dreifert had a little thing with Andres Galarraga there for about 3 or 4 starts in a row where he hit him every first at bat. And I mean, we wanted to kill him, and it's, now is not the time to make yourself a lightning rod, because, I think the world of Trevor Bauer and his abilities, because I think he's been a number one for a long time in waiting. And now he is that number one in Cincinnati. But when you make yourself as visible as he does, it makes you an easy target. So, I know that if I were in that Braves clubhouse and in that Braves dugout waiting to face him, I'd be chomping at the bit.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, the game is still personality driven.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that I'm old, but I also know that I like the personality-driven version of baseball now. I like the idea that there are young stars in the making and waiting, and we're going to see a bunch of them this October. I think there's no downside to it.
Guys, there's nothing wrong with it. There's got to be a guy wearing a white hat and a guy wearing a black hat in every matchup. And, the guys who have the black hats on and embrace it, I mean, now that I'm in the media business, so to speak, we love it because it's it makes for instant storyline. So it's going to be an intriguing matchup, with the Reds and the Braves.
And I would say that it's good for Major League Baseball to embrace that, too, because a lot of times I feel like some of the biggest stars in baseball get overlooked. They don't have the same, star power, if you will, as maybe some of the other major leagues, NFL and NBA. I think it's really good for baseball to be able to embrace that because it just charges the star for everybody.
Well, let's look at, 3, 4, 5 of the biggest stars in baseball. You got Mike Trout,
right?
Very grounded, very quiet, goes about his business, just puts up monster numbers. Mookie Betts, very quiet, goes about his business, just goes out and handles his business. Freddie Freeman, same way. Ronald Acuna, the same way. I mean, these guys are not people that are going to come out and talk about politics and religion and racism and all that. They're going to keep their mouth shut and just concentrate on the game itself. And unfortunately, that's not what sells in this day and age.
Yeah, I love me some Tim Anderson. I'm sorry. Guy trips my trigger, man. I like watching these guys. Tatis swinging 3-0, I think was the greatest thing that happened to baseball this season. I really do. I think it was the best thing that happened to the game. That one moment was as good as anything I think we saw.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. But the reason I think it's taken so long for baseball is because baseball is such a humbling game.
Yeah, you're talking about a game in which the Hall of Famers fail 70% of the time. Right. So there's a lot of negative that happens on a daily basis in baseball, which obviously keeps you humble. It keeps some of us humbled a little more than others.
That's exactly right. Chipper, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. Y'all take it easy and go Braves.
There you go. I like it. Go Braves.
You and I have had that discussion about what we like about the game. Anybody that wants to argue with me, I don't kind of like it. What don't you like about Tim Anderson? What don't you like about Tatis?
Well, and this might be apples to oranges, but the better your movie is, the better your villain is, and vice versa. You show me a good movie, I got a good villain. Mm-hmm. I like having those rivalries. I like the good guys and the bad guys of the game because it not only is it good for viewing, but it's the human nature. These guys are competing at the highest level, and some guys are just going to be more liked than others and vice versa.
You know what's crazy, though? It's the infamous Bill Lambier thing. It's the infamous Dennis Rodman thing.
Right.
He's a villain when he's over there. But I sure like one or two of them.
I want him on my team.
Yeah,
I want him on my bench.
I sure like one or two.
There's so many guys, and Bauer's a great example of that, where last year when he was complaining about the Braves and their approach versus him in a game where he couldn't get out of the fifth inning.
Said people hadn't done that to him since he was
if he was on your team. You're mouthing up. I want to take that guy down.
Yeah.
Oh, he's my pitcher now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, he's our jerk.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
I hate your jerk, but I like my jerk.
No,
you take him.
Yeah. And I think the playoffs. Again, we'll finish up. I think the idea that young talent is littered throughout these 16 teams. Whether you like 16 or not, it doesn't matter.
Right.
There's no asterisk by if you're good in the postseason, if you're great in October. 2020, the 60-game season doesn't count.
Right.
Your ability to be great in October, we're at a level playing field of every other year. Somebody's going to be great in October, somebody's, and some guys are going to be small. And I don't care what the season was and what you tell me it wasn't. There was too many teams in the postseason. October great is October great. You don't have to apologize for it, and you're going to go down in the books, and people are going to talk about you forever. Mm-hmm. That's how this game is set up.
Certainly is. You've been listening to the Braves postseason preview show here on 680 The Fan, on FM at 93.7, and as well as on the 680 The Fan YouTube channel. A couple folks we need to thank. Kevin D'Amico. We got to thank Road Dogg, Caitlin. We got Caitlin B. Social, Brandon Joseph, absolutely. Rhino back in the studio, too. And if I've left anybody out, you know I'm thinking of you, and I appreciate everything you've done to get this show on tonight.
Where does the Scully picture hang in the Ingram household?
On a bookshelf.
All right.
Got a bookshelf. I don't know if people can see it all that well. It might have a glare on the screen or whatever.
That's just a cool picture, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
that's legit.
That said postseason to me when I saw him walk through the press box at Turner Field that year, 2013. So
yeah, there's nothing that tops that voice.
Fun show and tell.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That'll do it for us. We appreciate your time spending time with us here on The Fan. I want to thank the folks here at Sports and Social, too, live at the Battery. Make sure you come down when you come visit the Battery. You stop in at Sports and Social, get yourself something good to eat and something good to drink. For Ben Ingram and Chris Domino, my name is Tug Cowart. This is The Fan, 680 at 93.7 FM.
Thanks for hanging out for Braves baseball on 680 The Fan on FM at 93.7.